G'day guys, welcome back to the English Aussie. Hope you've all had a great Christmas and I hope you all are enjoying your break. We will go, we should go straight into it really with some press conference updates. We have a bunch of team news to get through. We'll go through some of the team observations for last game week 17 and we'll talk about our game week 18 predictions. We'll talk through the best SAKA replacements, also some potential upgrades in the forward spot, look at the sort of statistical and tactical analysis for all of the players. We'll also have a look at some of the players on the watch list, which is a new sort of video that I've been doing on players to keep an eye out for over the next few weeks. And then we'll have a look at how we're looking for game week 18, how game week 17 went, and we will do some team reviews for any of you guys that want to post your team ID down below in the chat. Feel free to chuck it in there, and I'll get your team up on the screen and we can do a team review of you guys' team. So to run through sort of the team news for this week, obviously the main bit of news, SAKA, the injury to SAKA, has done his hamstring and is not available for a few weeks. For some reason Google seems to think OBS is a suspicious activity for me, which is what I use for my streaming, which is quite funny. Just popped up. So Bukayo Saka out for a few weeks, seems what from Mikel Arteta said. Raheem Sterling also out for Arsenal. Not ideal for them, so that will be a problem for them going forwards. Two right wingers both injured. Outside of that, we've got White and Tomiyasu still out in their back line, and those are sort of the key updates from Arteta. Obviously, you know him, doesn't like to give too much away. From the Ipswich side, Delap is back after serving his suspension last week. For some reason I can't see the chat messages at the moment popping up. Bit strange. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Ipswich, Delap's back after suspension. Calvin Phillips is available after playing a few minutes. Tuanzebe and Hurst are still out injured, and Morsey is suspended in midfield. They will probably have to look at what they're going to do in that sort of midfield area to work their way through Morsey's suspension. I think it's good news for Ipswich having Delap back in the team. That sort of provides that focal point for them up front. Smozic, you know my pronunciation is terrible. Sam Smozic, I think it is. Sorry for butchering that name. Played up front last game for Ipswich, and they really just didn't look like they had a lot of attacking talent going. Man City news, Diaz obviously still out for sort of 3 to 4 weeks. Stones will likely not be ready for the game against Everton after coming off at half-time in that Aston Villa match. And Ederson and Nunez are both being assessed sort of day to day, Pep was saying, and see whether they will be available for the game. From the Everton side, I think Dwight McNeil is unlikely to feature. Dyke said again, sort of touch and go this week again. It was the same he said last week. So it just felt like he was unlikely to feature in the game this week. Ashley Young is suspended after picking up 5 yellow cards before game week 19. and Ghana and Irogbanan, again terrible pronunciation, are also still injured. 2 more game weeks now for those players that are sitting on 4 yellow cards. They have until game week 19. Once game week 19 comes around, that gets sort of cleared. They have to pick up 10 yellow cards before game week 32 in that case to get a suspension. So there are quite a lot of players sitting on 4 yellows, and maybe we'll run through the list of those players a little bit later in the stream and go through who you should be looking out for. Let's move on to the next teams, next games. Liverpool, really a lot of good news for Liverpool. A lot of their players are coming back and being fit. Robertson returns from his suspension. Jota, Chiesa, McAllister, all available. In fact, Robertson was back last week as well. I don't know why I got that one there. Elliott and Tsimikas available this week. And Bradley and Konate are both still out. Slot, as I was mentioning previously, still a bit sheepish around Konate and sort of not willing to give timelines on those injuries. I think with a knee injury, I think it's likely that he'll continue to be out for a few weeks. Neither of them are training with the Liverpool team. So I think I would expect Konate out all the way through Christmas and sort of early January, maybe to come back post an international break. On the Leicester side, Jamie Vardy is being assessed for a small knock that Ruud mentioned. Stalacic is back from injury, and Hermansen is still being assessed daily. Didi and Fatawi still injured. I think that Hermansen one is really important for Leicester. If he can come back for them, that really helps them out. If you looked at the goals they conceded last week, Danny Ward, I think Hermansen saves a couple of them. He let through a couple that, I think really should have been saves. Hey Niels, welcome to the stream, mate. Hope you're going well. Merry Christmas out there in New Zealand. Hope you had a good break, and you're still on break. Got the Boxing Day shopping out of the way. Got in there for all the sales. Chelsea news, Lavia still injured, not available for this week. That makes me think that it's likely to be then Caicedo and Enzo at the base of that 5 in midfield. Merry Christmas, mate. Merry Christmas. Caicedo and Enzo at the base of that midfield. And as we saw last week, it was Malagusta inverting into the 10 role. And did mean that Enzo played a little bit deeper, obviously like pressed forwards when they were looking for those goals. Foggy, you got to love some Boxing Day sales. Yeah, you're right, mate. You definitely got to love the Boxing Day sales. Unfortunately, I was setting up this stream this morning, so I didn't manage to get to any of them. But luckily, I did my Christmas shopping early this year. Merry Christmas, Foggy. Good to see you back on the stream as well, mate. Good to see some return viewers. For Chelsea also, Cucurella returns from suspension. So there is a potential of both Cucurella and Gusto, Malagusto inverting into that 10 role today. I expect to see Enzo playing potentially a little bit deeper alongside Caicedo. And the 2 fullbacks being the ones that sort of invert into those roles. Badiashile, Fofana and Reece James are all still out for Chelsea. No real timeline yet. Fulham side, Tete out for 8 to 10 weeks. This is something that we were talking about in the previous weeks. That means that Timothy Castagna has come in at right back. He started for Fulham last week. With Robinson out on the left back, staying out on the left back role. Castagna's up there at 4.2 million, potentially gone up to 4.3 million actually. Let me do a quick check on that because I'm sure a lot of people brought him in last week. 4.2 million still, Timothy Castagna. So is a nice cut price option into a Fulham defence who have a really nice fixture run coming up over the next few game weeks. They've got, after Chelsea this week, Bournemouth, Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester, Man United, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Wolves, and then Brighton. So all the way through to sort of game week 27, the Fulham fixtures are quite nice from a defensive standpoint. Nelson and Reed are still injured, and Lukic and Burge are possibilities. I think Marco Silva sort of seemed to say that I think Lukic is probably more likely than Burge this week. But both of them it was probably more a probable, I would say, for Lukic, and maybe a possible for Burge. So I think that's sort of some positives for those Fulham fans. Smith Rowe are possible, but it sort of felt to me that he wasn't quite ready from the conversations that Marco Silva had. He's still progressing and they're sort of assessing him daily. He was sort of hoping for him to be ready, more so than any updates on Anderson starting for Fulham. The news was that Anderson was available and fit to be playing, so I would expect him to be starting for Fulham this week. Nothing to say that he wouldn't be, so yeah, I expect Anderson to start for Fulham this week. I'd probably say Lukic probably starts, Burge probably not in, and then Smith Rowe, I guess they've sort of been managing day to day, so I'd expect it to be more of like a 50-50 on Smith Rowe going forwards. Yeah, hopefully Anderson gets that starting role over Bassi Diop. I mean, available, I sort of would expect him to be in that starting lineup. Not sure who they drop to the bench out of Bassi and Diop. We'll see. Yeah, I just felt like probably not fully up to match fitness last week. Yeah, I'd like to think he's probably going to be in that starting lineup. Scott and Araujo injured for Bournemouth. Sinistera, Tavernier, I said that last week. Tavernier and Senesi all still out for them. Bournemouth with a lot of injury issues at the moment. They're sort of really struggling to really have a full squad available and just have a core fit squad at the moment. A lot of injuries for them. That is difficult to manage as well. 3 midfielders, 2 defenders being out. They're sort of running a little bit thin in defence at the moment if they do suffer any more injuries or any suspensions as well. Good news for Crystal Palace. Eze is available and should return to the Palace team this week. Munoz also returns after suspension. However, Adam Wharton is still out, roughly around 4 weeks, it was mentioned by Glasner. Talking on that a little bit, I think last week Palace obviously set up in that 5-4-1 formation against Arsenal. That was a bit of a change up from the way they'd been playing previously, with sort of that Eze, Sarr, Mateta mix at the top for them. And I thought they were sort of clicking into gear a little bit. They had been unbeaten in their previous 5 games before that. They'd only lost 1 of their last 8 in the Premier League. And I think that sort of 3-4-2-1 almost is what they were playing. The 3 centre-backs and then Munoz and Mitchell as the wing-backs, with 2 in the midfield. And then above that you've got sort of Sarr and Eze as those 10s behind Mateta. I thought it was going really nicely for Palace previously. So yeah, having Eze back, I think Palace might go back to that sort of 3-4-2-1 formation that was serving them really well. I think that is good for any of you that brought in Sarr this week for Saka. I think in that number 10 role, he's likely to be more effective, although he did score again last week, even playing out on the wing. And he did sort of play in that wing role as well for Watford back in the day. Yeah, I think good news for Palace as a whole. Munoz back at wing back, Eze back, obviously a really important part of their team and creativity. Likely probably to go back to that 3-4-2-1 rather than the 5-4-1 they played against Arsenal. Wolves, no news on Cunha. I will as I say this, I'm going to double check, because this is sort of one of those ones where you sort of concern yourself all the time. Yeah, no news so far on Cunha. I think the fact that there's nothing, no ban in place at the moment, means that he's going to be available and play this week for Wolves. The FA have obviously charged him. It seems like Wolves have appealed the ban. That's not been confirmed. However, similarly to when Bentancur got banned for Tottenham, the ban sort of wasn't put into place for maybe 3 weeks. They didn't decide on the length of the ban. So Cunha is going to be able to play this week against Man United, given the length of ban hasn't been handed out yet. Ait-Nouri also returns for suspension from Wolves. However, I'm not sure whether he will get back in that starting lineup, to be honest. And that is sort of, for any of you that do have Wolves players in your team, I would really consider moving an Ait-Nouri if you do have him out of the team. Last week they started with Matt Doherty and Rodrigo Gomez. I think it's Rodrigo Gomez. João Gomez. I think Rodrigo Gomez is the left back, the wing back, fullbacks, and he had a really fantastic game for Wolves. Scored a goal in a 3-0 win against Leicester. So Ait-Nouri may not make it back into the side this week after a really good performance. Doherty's also been performing really well at right wing back for them. So I would definitely consider moving him on. He is still on 4 yellow cards as well. If he does pick up a 5th, he will be suspended for 1 game. He does have 2 game weeks, game week 18 and 19, to fix that up. Man United, De Ligt is possible to play in this game. They are assessing him at the moment, and they're hoping that he will be available for the match. I think that will be a big bonus for Man United if he is available. He's a really key part of that sort of back three with his physical presence in there, especially considering Amorim did mention essentially Maguire is being rested midweek, as he's not able to play the sort of game every 3 days at the moment, but he's likely to be in the team back on the weekend for those games. Mount, Shaw and Lindelof all still out. Mount with a sort of a long-term injury at the moment. Mainu and Højlund potentially being rested is sort of the talk from Amorim. Roughly just sort of around, Mainu is sort of touch and go. He's maybe more of a possible. And Højlund, they're sort of saying they didn't want him to play every 3 days with him just coming back from injury. Therefore, likely that he is rested for this game week. Southampton, Ramsdale is available. Obviously played last week for Southampton. They did say he was a bit of a touch and go last week. He is now back in the team. Stevens returns from suspension, which is a big boost to their defence. Walker-Peters also available after playing last week. I think Southampton again sort of looked a little bit better defensively last week. They were allowed to sort of play the ball long a little bit more. Ramsdale really shifted that ball out from the back, was able to play those long diagonal balls. They still need to work a little bit on their sort of offensive threat and how they get the ball through. Tyler Dibbling obviously is a key role with his ball carrying prowess, but they don't really have anyone up top. Adam Armstrong, Cameron Archer don't really have that sort of clinical finishing that they need. But hopefully defensively they can be a little bit more solid now. They have set up really nicely with the 5 at the back low block. I actually think they've defended at times really well against some of the big teams, especially like Liverpool and Man City, and the goals that they gave away were really just from poor play out of the press, and that was their main sort of defensive woes, and then it all spiralled once they gave away a goal. Then obviously they had to move forwards. and that low block gets broken down a little bit more easily when there's a bit more space for the opposition. West Ham, Paqueta suspended and Soler returned from suspension. Potentially expect that to be like almost a straight swap. I think it's quite nice from West Ham, for West Ham perspective. I feel like the two of them playing together both don't move very fast in that midfield, just make West Ham even worse in sort of that transition defence, which we know they've been so poor this season at getting back in transition. That has been a problem for them. Probably good news for anybody who owns Jared Bowen. That Paqueta suspension means I think it's likely that he's going to be on penalties for them now. Is very frustrating for those Bowen owners, I'm sure, when Paqueta comes on in the 70th minute and picks up and takes the penalty. Lopetegui also mentioned, and he is basically a second Arteta. He's almost as annoying in press conferences. Two unknown players with problems. He just doesn't like to give us anything in those press conferences. Almost might as well put a big question mark on West Ham team news because you just don't know what's coming up. Interesting, I think, that Southampton-West Ham game, what's going to happen in that. I think that's a really difficult game to call. We'll have to see how Southampton go under this new manager. Could be really interesting to see sort of their tactics and how they set up in a game where it's possible for them to get something out of this at home. Brighton v Brentford. Welbeck still unlikely. I think he's not going to play, to be honest, is my opinion. Herzl didn't really give any updates on him in the press conference. He only talked about things that had changed for players since the last game. Obviously, Welbeck not even being on the bench in the last game makes me think that that's exactly the case again for this game week. That does significantly affect the Brighton attacking line. They are significantly better with Welbeck in that centre-forward role and allowing João Pedro to play in behind in the sort of number 10 role, where I think he is much better. That has sort of led me this week to make a change and actually move João Pedro out of the team for Gabriel Jesus, hoping for a sort of haul in that Ipswich fixture. I really wanted to sort of target Ipswich, who have been also poor defensively. Webster and Van Heck available, which is a boost for Brighton defence. Kadioglu and Hinchelwood still injured, and Weaver and Solly March sort of slowly getting back there. I think they're training with the team now, but sort of just building up their fitness, possible for inclusion this game week. So that is good news for Brighton. They are starting to get some players back fit. On the other hand, you got Brentford, who, similar to Bournemouth at the moment, are really suffering from injuries. Pinnock's picked up a hamstring injury and be out for a few weeks. Vandenberg with a groin injury. Thiago and Ayer all out for Brentford. Jensen also injured, and Rico Henry is still injured and out. One good piece of news: Rorslev returns for them. That is a little diamond in the rough for Brentford. Sort of running really low in that back line at the moment. I'm sort of feeling that they were likely to go back to that 3-5-2 formation with maybe Mbeumo and Wissa up top together, just based off the lack of fitness of defence at the moment. What their options are, maybe with Lewis Potter on one of the sort of wing-back roles, sort of continuing their previous play. Newcastle, Pope not quite ready yet. Lascelles and Kraft still injured. Wilson obviously out for 8 weeks, which we spoke about for Isak owners. Being a big positive. You can be confident that Isak's going to be starting in all those games over the next few weeks for Newcastle. Fingers crossed he manages to keep himself fit and is able to play on all of those games. good news for Newcastle fans. Joe Willock is available for selection. Will hopefully make his way back into that Newcastle team. And Joelinton also returns from suspension, which, as we discussed, is really important for Newcastle in that sort of transition defensive role and also offensive role, carrying the ball, involved in a lot of progressive carries for Newcastle. Jacob Murphy's also been playing superbly on that right wing for Newcastle. Definitely somebody that you can consider as an option as a Bukayo Saka replacement this week. We will obviously go on to talk about replacements for Saka on this stream, who the key options are, looking at the tactical and statistical analysis of those players. Aston Villa looking pretty good injury-wise. Jacob Ramsey obviously still injured for them, probably out for a couple more weeks. Apart from that, no fresh injuries concerns noted by Unai Emery. He did rage on in midweek, not rage on, but talk on in midweek about how important Morgan Rogers was to his side. So for those of you that are holding Morgan Rogers, definitely someone who's a really key part of Emery's side, and he is sort of stressing his importance to him and looking to make him play even more and more key roles in that team. He's definitely somebody that I would look at starting this week again if you do have him. I think if you are going to get through Newcastle, I think in transition is going to be key as well. That ball carrying from Rodgers is obviously really important for Villa. And if Duran does start up top again, I think his link-up play with Duran was really nice against Man City. They definitely both looked for each other, and I thought that worked really nicely. From a Nottingham Forest perspective, Nuno didn't really give anything away. He's starting to get a little bit more secretive around these sort of team news releases. He said he's still assessing the players and we'll see. I'm not liking this change of tune from Nuno. He's normally lovely and gives it as it is for the players. Hopefully that means that there's no fresh injury concerns for Nottingham Forest. Danilo's back in training with the team. He's been training for the last sort of week or so with them. So that is a bit of bonus news. They're obviously almost at full health there at Nottingham Forest. Tottenham, lots of updates. Udogie noted as available from Ange. Bentancur also returns from his suspension for his behaviour. Defensively, still problems for Spurs. Vicario and Davies still out. Romero and Van de Ven also out for Spurs. So plenty of issues at the back for them. Can that man do it again? Chris Wood, the goal-scoring machine. We will have to wait and see. Potentially, I think actually Spurs is a nice fixture for Nottingham Forest. On the counter-attack against like a high-pressing, very pushed-up Spurs line, I sort of expect both teams to score in that game. Spurs breaking down Nottingham Forest actually might be a little bit more difficult for them than Nottingham Forest catching them out on the counter. But we will see how that goes this week. Those are my sort of press conference updates for the teams. I'll flick over to our Game Week 18 predictions, our rundown of what we think the results are going to be across the board. I've got that sort of team news coming up across the screen in the bottom right. So if you did miss anything at any point, feel free to chuck in the comments, or it will come up on screen at some point in the bottom right for all the team news. No worries, Niels. You're welcome for team news. So yeah, stick around on the stream and you'll see it flick up, or post in the comments for any questions that you have on players, and happy to give updates directly to you if you can't wait for the screen to come round. Talking on Game Week 18 predictions, I think in that Chelsea-Fulham game, they are two teams that I would say Fulham a little bit more defensively solid than Chelsea have been. but Chelsea just sort of play with that high energy in the press, really press teams super high. I don't think Fulham have really encountered too much of that, especially the way Chelsea press with sort of almost a 5-man high press with Nicholas Jackson followed by the four in midfield, the two wingers, Palmer, and then whoever sort of inverts into that attacking midfield role. I think that's going to put them under a little bit of pressure defensively. But I also think that if if Fulham are able to break that press, they are one of the teams with the best ability at progressive carries in the Premier League. They're very good at those sort of fast counter-attacks. And I do wonder if they're going to play a lot of sort of diagonal balls from the centre-backs out wide to try and hit it over the top of that press. I don't see them as someone that's going to try and play through Chelsea and their high press. So if I really can't get it. If Fulham do play their sort of crossfield balls, which is what I'm expecting them to do out to their wingers, I think if they can bypass that Chelsea front line, they could really get at that Chelsea defence and cause them a few problems. So I am going to go for both teams to score. I think Chelsea have been one of the best attacking teams in the Premier League. I think Maresca is able to make some fantastic tactical changes mid-game. And I think anything that Fulham throw at them in that first half, Chelsea will sort of be able to adapt to in the second half and be able to get a goal. Southampton v West Ham, for me it's a game where both teams sort of lack a bit of clinical cutting edge. Southampton, especially with their sort of front line, don't really have that cutting edge. West Ham have been a little bit slow in the build-up, not really having a focal point. Fulkrug not quite back at full fitness, I think, yet. Jarrod Bowen not in his best position when he's playing that sort of number 9 role up front. He's much better on the right wing. Hopefully with Kudus and Bowen both back now, they will sort of show something a little bit more. Be interesting to see whether they play Kudus in the 10, Bowen on the right and Somerville on the left. Now Paqueta's out this week. I actually think that would be the best lineup for West Ham from a creative perspective, and that might be the way where they can best get at Southampton. I might actually go through to some of the tactical observations at the moment, and then we'll sort of talk through these predictions after that. We can talk through what we saw from game week 17, the matches, and then we can go on to sort of what my game week 18 predictions are, and then maybe it gives you a little bit more oversight and insight into why I've gone with some of those predictions. Villa v Man City was obviously not what anybody expected, I don't think. We did expect that Villa would cause Man City issues in transition, and that was one thing I said to a few people that were talking about perhaps benching Rodgers last week, was that if there is a game that he's going to look good in, that was a game where he's obviously crucial to Villa in those transition plays, and Man City obviously really susceptible in transition at the moment. And therefore I thought he was a good option. When you do look at my team, you will see that I did actually bench him. So if I sort of listened to my own advice I gave people, I'd have been 14 points better up last week. But yeah, I felt like that Man City defence just left huge gaps in the middle. Basically in the first half, they had Lewis inverting into that sort of defensive midfield role. Niels, quick question, who to start over Semenyo or Rodgers? Currently thinking Semenyo. Bournemouth v Palace, Rodgers v Newcastle. That's an interesting one. I know Semenyo did score last week. But I just like the positions Rodgers gets in for Villa. And Villa not coming off the back of sort of, I guess 2 games in 3 days, they might suffer the same sort of fatigue that they've been suffering previously in those sort of midweek after the Champions League games. I think I'd also start Semenyo this week. I think Villa frequently, when they play like midweek Champions League games, they often come out on the weekend and look a bit flat. So given they've just played like not that long ago, I think, thanks Tony, appreciate that mate, always appreciate the nice comments in the chat. Yeah, I think given that they've played not that long ago, there is a potential that they maybe do come out a little bit flat. Having said that, any time that they have come out flat, the one guy who's not been flat has been Morgan Rogers, and he's been the one driving that team forwards. So I think like him and Duran and their link-up play, that is the way you're going to hurt Newcastle. But I also think that Semenyo versus Palace at home, I also think is a nicer option. You got to try and put that to the back of your mind, that sort of, if you did bench Rodgers last week and you lost out on 14 points, it's hard to obviously not bench him this week. It's hard to obviously bench him this week. But looking at it from sort of a tactical perspective and what positions they're going to pick up, I think Semenyo could pick up some nice positions against Palace. Bournemouth at home have also tended to be quite good this season. So yeah, I would probably go for Semenyo. I do. My only thing with him is just he's not been in. I don't think he's been in great form particularly. I know he scored that goal last week, but he also had a lot of like poor attempts. So I think it's close. I don't think it's too far. I'm probably maybe a 60-40 to Semenyo. Yeah, I think I am a 60-40 to Semenyo. I think the way Villa will set up against Newcastle will be slightly different to how they set up against Man City. They might be able to have a little bit more of the ball, but potentially Newcastle are not going to give Rodgers those spaces in between the lines to be able to turn and run at their defence, especially with Joe Linton being back. Hey Finners, Merry Christmas mate. I've got a nice slide deck for you coming up later, if you'll be around. If you're not, I'll flick you a quick special look at this slide. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. I pulled together a sort of fixture difficulty like my own FDR that I think you can see from it both an attacking and defensive rating. It's different to obviously the FPL one, which I don't think is correct. Crown, who do you go for? Bruno and Jesus in, or Martinelli and Trent in? Definitely Bruno and Jesus in. Look, I do have some interesting comments around Trent this week. I've obviously been quite bullish on not having him in the side. I do think Saka's injury not has changed my mind from a tactical aspect. I think he doesn't pick up the great positions and not really value for money at that 7 mil. But depending on your team value and how much money you have in your team, if price is really not an issue for you these days, and that could happen now that we're moving out of Saka, like Trent could become an option for Liverpool's nice fixture run here. I still think that 7 mil like is obviously an inflated price for him, and he's not that sort of worth that value for money. But he does become more of an option over these sort of 8 game weeks where Liverpool are probably going to have a double as well, so it would be 9. Now that Saka is out for a few weeks. But just don't expect him to be getting those huge hauls that he's got previously, because last week was a one-off, the position that he was playing. Slot obviously changed his tactics last week to play Trent in the sort of old role that he was playing in, a lot higher, the sort of role that he played in under Klopp, and obviously like that suited him far better, and that was one of the reasons that he got his assist. But I don't expect him to be playing, especially this week against Leicester, I don't expect him to be playing in that high role. I expect him to be playing in that more defensive role. Be interesting to see also if McAllister's sort of taking over those corner responsibilities for him as well. That also reduces his assist threat even more. So again, like I do think his stats are very inflated, and I don't think he's worth the 7 million. But in the case that money is not an object for your team and you literally have money burning holes in your pockets, he could be an option to go to just because of the Liverpool good fixtures, and the fact that he can take like direct free kicks from outside the box. That for me is sort of the one. But yeah, Crown, I'd go for Bruno and Jesus. I think Gabriel Jesus against Ipswich is a really like great chance of huge upside in that fixture. How did I do last week? Even with my Rodgers, I got 89, which wasn't too bad. Copium. Yeah, I was 83 points last week. Very small green arrow up to 121k. I was actually in the top 100. I was about 70k before Cunha got some points on the Sunday, along with, I think it was kind of someone else as well, picked up some points on the Sunday. Pushed me down a little bit. I didn't have too many players playing on the Sunday. But yeah, small green arrow up to 121k. Continuous sort of green arrow has been going on at the moment. I'm going to jinx myself here, so touch some hollow wood up here. But yeah. Yeah, so in terms of this sort of fixture difficulty ratings and stuff, so this is my sort of attacking fixture difficulty rating that I've created, and you can see here the sort of yellow icons, yeah, down low at the back. Hopefully you don't mind your YouTube channel. Gave it a bit of a shout out down here, mate. If you don't like it, I'll crop it out in future, and maybe I'll edit it out on the video later. But if that's good, legend. Thanks for creating that. Couldn't make it any bigger and still make that FDR useful. Yeah, so guys, like you can see at the top, the 18-19 fixture swings. Obviously, we're talking about wildcards. 18-19 is a really nice sort of time to get to switch up the runs. Really, I would say if you're using your wildcard, wait for 19. That is the last week you can use wildcard 1. So if you haven't used it, make sure you get it done in 18 or 19. I'd say 19 is slightly nicer, unless you really want to attack Liverpool and Man City, that sort of Leicester-Everton game this week. If you don't have a lot of those players and you want to get into them, then 18 is the better option. Otherwise, 19 allows you a little flexibility for sort of the defensive fixture swings. And if I go on to the defensive one, I also think 29-30 is a nice little fixture swing as well. But yeah, if I go on to sort of the defensive side here, you can see 19 is quite a nice area to get into the Nottingham Forest defence, and also Fulham. And that's sort of coming to the end a little bit of those Bournemouth nice fixture runs. I know they have Everton, so you start to come out of them. Wolves again, you come out of the Wolves nice fixture run in 19 as well. So from a defensive perspective, I definitely think 19 is the better one to use the wild card. From an attacking perspective, if you don't have those Liverpool Man City assets and you want them, I think 18 is better. So I think for me, use it in 18 if you don't have those Liverpool Man City players. There's much more upside in using it for the attacking players, but just put the defensive players in with that long run. You can get away with putting in Forest against Spurs and Fulham against Chelsea for 1 week. I'm sure you'll probably still have one Liverpool defender, maybe one Man City defender in there. You can rotate them around. So that's what my suggestion would be. I think then like 28, 29, if you're not doing the strategy which I recommended in my chip strategy video, which if you haven't watched it, give it a watch, and in like 3 days time I'll put a link to it up in the top of this video as a card. Yeah, I would suggest definitely looking at sort of that 28, 29 fixture swing, which is really nice from both attacking and defensive perspective. You can see Wolves, City, Liverpool, Arsenal sort of continues, and then it's the end of that the Brighton, Fulham, both of those sort of defensive fixture runs, sort of the end of those. Similarly, if we look at the attack, you can see it's the end of the Chelsea nice attacking fixture run, the end of the Fulham nice attacking fixture run, the end of the Aston Villa nice attacking fixture run, and sort of the start for Newcastle, the start for Man City, even for Liverpool, you sort of quite nice in 28, 29. So that is quite, even Nottingham Forest if you wanted a Chris Wood. I don't have it highlighted on there, but that is sort of where you'd look to use a wild card if you're not looking to do sort of a wild card into a bench boost later on. What do you think about the Salah curse everyone's talking about today? I haven't heard anything about the Salah curse. To be honest, sometimes I don't watch the other YouTubers. So if they had said something about that, I haven't really watched any of their videos today. In my opinion, there's no Salah curse, mate. Salah is, man, look at Salah's performances for however long. Is it he doesn't do anything at Christmas or something? I don't know, that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, I'm expecting Salah to return, to be honest, mate. It's all over Twitter. It's apparently due to him posting with a Christmas tree. I've got to have a look at that, mate. I've got to have a look at that. That's on Twitter, is it? That sounds pretty funny. No, I've been watching the NBA this morning, Christmas Day games. I haven't looked at any of this. He's criticised after sharing. Annual tradition of posting in front of a Christmas tree. Interesting. I don't know, mate. I definitely don't believe in that rubbish. Sorry, not rubbish, but I don't believe in that. So, I personally think Salah's gonna. They say it's not haram. Yeah, I don't know about all of that, but I don't think he's cursed, mate. I reckon he's. Well, we'll see. If he doesn't score against Leicester, maybe he is cursed, because Leicester have been horrific defensively. So. Yeah, we'll wait and see. How was Christmas for me, Nishant? Christmas was pretty good, mate. I had a very relaxing Christmas day. No looking at football. Just chilling out at home, cooked some nice food and watching some movies. So yeah, very relaxing. I had my full Santa outfit on. Yeah, FaceTiming with some family back in the UK. Got to see my brother's little boy. Which was nice, and see him open some gifts. So, yeah, it's a good Christmas. Very relaxed. It was nice to have a break, to be honest, because I feel like I've been like hectic busy. So yeah, pretty good. Boxing Day's been good so far. Stream's going well. Lakers v Golden State in the NBA was an epic game. I won't spoil this for anybody who hasn't watched it, but watch the highlights on YouTube if you haven't. It was a great game. A few other good NBA games as well. So. I was allowed to watch some Boxing Day sport today, given I did nothing yesterday on the FPL side of stuff. Yeah, hope your Christmas was good as well, Nishant, mate. Hope your Boxing Day is going to be good when you get some FPL points this week. So yeah, talking through obviously these tactical observations again. I think we talked about the City defence, did we? We got through sort of Pep's tactical changes and why they sort of ended up having such big gaps at the back. You saw obviously Akanji spread super. I don't know why he was spreading so wide when like Lewis was inverting into the midfield. He was sort of spreading then into that sort of right back role. Then you had sort of Guardiola and Stones in the middle in the first half before Stones went off. And like Guardiola wasn't really sure whether he was supposed to be out wide on the left helping Grealish, or like tucking in his centre back, and then when he sort of drifted, Lewis and Kovacic got caught a little bit high. It was just Rodgers and Duran v like scrambling Akanji, scrambling Guardiola, and then all of the Villa players just flooded them. They just sprinted. I'm thinking of a -4 to get Isaac in. Might get him in for Raul, Nishant. Who for, mate? Do you want to post your team ID in the chat? We can pull it up and we can have a think about what the best option is for you. I can put your team on screen. We can have a chat through. I love the idea of getting Isaac in. Like, I think he's just top #1 striker for me. Well, I mean, let's see how Jesus does this week, but #1 striker for me at the moment, I'd say, is Isaac. Long term. So potentially might be worth a -4. I'm normally against -4s, to be honest. I do hear people often like support -4s for people. I really like genuinely think they're bad, unless it's something that sets your team up well for the future that you need, and you need to be able to keep making transfers in future weeks. For me, like -4s are just not the way. You just can save it and take it next week. Often you end up around the same points if you haven't done it. Like you're giving away 4 points, you got to be sure that person's scoring a lot of points that week. I think -4s, like if you're going to captain somebody, then they may be a little bit more worth it. Yeah, so that was sort of like City defence. Pep trying to change it in the second half just didn't work. DM's got caught too high. I don't know what was going on, to be honest. Like they really need, they need to change. I don't like the way they're set up in their formation role. I almost think they should be playing like a 4-2-3-1. I think that's the best way that City can set up. And that just leaves them a lot less defensively vulnerable. That allows Guardiola to push on down that left-hand side, which he's probably not going to be able to. Now he's going to have to play centre-back. And then those 2 defensive midfielders need to hold. Like, they need to hold properly. Like, they're not holding. They're getting caught too high frequently for City. And that's just causing a lot of problems for them. So, yeah, I think Pep definitely needs to have a look at that. Going forward, not that he doesn't know what he's doing, but I mean, he's got to change something tactically, defensively. I think for City, I know like he has his way of playing. It's obviously worked for a long time, but with the players that you play available, you've got to change something up. And that's why I've always been so big on City. Like every week, I always think they're going to come back because I just think Pep is going to find a solution because he's obviously such an excellent manager. But yeah, his interviews have been bad as well. Like you shouldn't. He gives such a despondent manner. What I've been reading is that he has a lot of self-doubt in himself a lot, and obviously if that's sort of a personal thing for him that he obviously needs to work through. But when you're giving those interviews, he's almost very negative for his players, and that doesn't set a good. So it doesn't set a good vibe in the team. I'll get your team ID up now, mate. Let me just pop it into Gameweek. What was it? 8475745. 745. Bench is terrific though. That's right, mate. We've all got some horrendous benches. Let me just put it up on the screen. Mish, so Sales, Virgil, Saliba, Guardiola. Good back 3. Semenyo, Palmer, Salah, Saka, Cunha, JP, Raul. Okay, yeah, I see. So you got what? Okay, so you got one transfer. You're probably going to go Saka out. None in the bench. Saka down to somebody, and then Raul up to Isak. Is that your plan? Yeah, I mean, looking at your bench, Keane's probably not going to play for Everton. Malik probably not playing again this week. Southampton, do you want to go? No, yeah, you probably do want to make a change. Yeah, look, to be honest, I understand your -4. To be honest, this is one of those very rare situations where I think I would probably take the -4. Got Sarr for Saka. Yeah, nice. I like Sarr. I think it's with Eze back this week. He's probably going to play. I was saying earlier, not sure if you're on the stream. They're probably going to play that 3-4-2-1 formation, where they basically lost 1 game in 8 before Arsenal, and they were unbeaten in 5 with Eze and Sarr in that 2-10 roles, which I think is really nice for Sarr. Bournemouth sometimes struggle in the central areas, so I think also being in that narrow 10 role might be quite nice. Yeah, so I think that's nice. I think I would actually do that -4. Saka to Sarr, Fulham beat Chelsea, Raul, Isak. Would I do Isak in Raul this week? Could you wait to next week? Yeah, I think the problem is he could easily be benched at Muniz again. I don't think he will be. I actually think he'll start. I think they'll rotate the two. But I think it sets you up nicer for long term. You're probably going to want to make a transfer again next week. I can imagine you'll look at making something next week. Maybe even... would that leave you with some money in the bank? Because if that leaves you some money in the bank, it'd be quite nice if you had a little bit of money to sort of move potentially like a Cunha out to a Nicholas Jackson. If you do have that funds, that would pretty much be perfect going forwards. Otherwise, maybe like, depending on how João Pedro goes this week, maybe João Pedro out to Chris Wood. Got Everton and Wolves in the next two fixtures. But yeah, I think that's good. I think I did the -4 this week, mate. Very rare that you'll hear me say that, but yeah, I think have a crack at it. Should work. Cool. So yeah, Man City, talked about them. I'll stop talking about Pep. Sorry for all Man City fans. Good luck, Nish, mate. Hopefully that helps you. Now who am I supporting? I'm supporting Isak anyway, he's in my team. Ismail Assar, I got to support Ismail Assar and Foden this week. A couple of guys I was talking to have gone for them. I like Ismail Assar, and I'm wearing my Palace shirt today actually. My brother's a Palace fan, so I think he'll be happy if he probably doesn't watch my streams, to be honest. But if he is, he'll be happy. I've got the Palace shirt on today, so too early for him in the UK. He's got kids to deal with. Villa, yeah, like I was talking about Villa better with Kamara in the double pivot. We did that deep dive back on Villa earlier in the season, talked about how they were struggling a little bit since then, since Kamara's come back, and they sort of changed their formation a little bit. I thought they looked a lot better. Yeah, I think Kamara's done a really good job in that central midfield role. We talked about Rodgers being great in transition. I think he'll be good in transition as well against Newcastle. But having Joe Linton back for Newcastle is going to be important to stopping Rodgers there. Tottenham-Liverpool, mental game. 6-3. I thought Liverpool, to be honest, absolutely demolished them. I think they sort of just relaxed a little bit for some of Tottenham's goals. Which was annoying for me because a lot of people have Solanke, and I was like, he just had some free stuff that he shouldn't have had. But good for all you guys that have Solanke. But I was watching that being like, come on lads, what are we doing? I think the key takeaway from that game was Trent. I think some important things for you guys to understand. He obviously played in that higher role as a tactical change from Slot, and that was to counteract Spurs and how they play with super high fullbacks, super high wingers, and Liverpool basically went, we can take you, attack to attack, we will take you out. So Trent played the role that he used to play in under Klopp, which was much higher, which got him into much more advanced positions that he's been getting this season. I don't expect that to continue, especially against Leicester. I expect him to go back into his normal role. Liverpool don't want to be caught out in transition. The way that maybe Spurs had a couple of chances to. So I do think that he's still not, from a tactical perspective, a great option for a £7 million price point. He's not value for the 7 million. For those of you that do have really good team value, and now that Saka's got injured, there is some things to think about for Trent, is that he does become a little bit of a better option. That money, obviously with the Liverpool really good fixtures coming up, if you've got that sort of spare funds, then fine, you can go to him, because he does have some attacking potential. Is more, to me, middle of the pack, around the same as everyone else, around the same as a Hall, a Robinson, a Kirkhead, all of this. That's sort of where, if you strip out the expected assists that are inflating his stats at the moment, that's where he lands. I should really put these maths up on the screen so you guys believe me. But that is where sort of Trent lands. So could be worth it if you're looking. If you have that money to go for him now, he is somebody that I've taken out of my sell category. But yeah, it's really only if you have good team value and you can afford it with moving Saka on now. Jota, not fit enough to start. I don't expect him to start again for Liverpool this week. I think he'll come on off the bench. I don't think he's got the match fitness at the moment. This is a personal opinion, by the way, not from what I've heard from Slot's press conferences. I don't think he's got the match fitness to be playing yet. It is sort of from what I've heard from press conferences, but he hasn't said this specifically. Yeah, I don't really expect him to be playing this week. Not sure who's going to start in that number 9 role. It could be Nunes, could be Diaz again. Obviously played really well against Tottenham. Or that maybe they could both start. So I think Jota's unlikely to start for Liverpool in that role. Maddison, talking about him as a potential Bukayo Saka replacement. Look, I think Maddison's a great option. People talk about Maddison's minutes. Let me show you this. Maddison for minutes is not a problem. Look at at least for starts. He started 14 of the 17 games for Spurs this season, and yeah, maybe he's not played the full minutes in all of those games, but realistically, he's playing a lot of minutes. He might not be up there with sort of top minutes for the season, but he's now started. The Spurs have now sort of found this formation, which I need to fix my lighting in this room a little bit because I've got the blue light on. But yeah, Spurs have now sort of found this formation. What colour? Red's not good. Yeah, red's Christmas green. Spurs have sort of found this formation now, which is I've been talking about as the best formation for them, which is basically Kulusevski on the right wing, Son on the left wing, Maddison in the 10 role behind Solanke, which they've been most creative. Tony, 1644862, 1-3 transfer. Let me pull you up, mate. Let me pull you up. Give me a second, and just need to put that number in. Is it 1644862? Okay. Top 1 mil, mate. Nice. Let me just put you up on screen. Nice. Here you go. Gamma the goat. Love it. Wow, you made 5 transfers last week, did you? Just curious. Oh, you had 5 saved transfers. Is that what that is? Why would that not let me click? Oh, you made them. Sanchez, Neri, Semenyo, Cunha, Henderson, Harvard Bellis, Mikolenko, Enzo, Isak. Wow, really interesting change. Really interesting changes you made last week. +8 though. +8 for the week. Those changes were. Interesting that you went Henderson in for Sanchez. I think Chelsea's fixtures are nice, and I don't know. I guess Palace's fixtures are nice as well. Mikolenko probably for the double game week. Enzo for Semenyo is nice. Cunha out for Isak, nice. Sorry, what was your question? 1 free transfer at 0.1 million in the bank. Yeah, let's have a look. Fabianski, Henderson rotation. Mikolenko, Timber, Hall, nice. Colwill on the bench, nice. Salah, Thomas. Is that Thomas Partey? Is that what that is? How much is he? 5 mil? Oh, I can tell you what my transfer is going to be already. Enzo, Palmer, João Pedro, Haaland, Isak, mate. It's got Haaland, nice. Okay, that's cool. I like a slightly different, slightly different setup to a lot of people. I think what I'd say there, obviously, you want to keep Haaland in that team. I really like the fact that you've gone a little bit different from others. I think what I'd look at here is your midfield's obviously Salah, Partey, Enzo, Palmer, Rodgers. My thoughts for you would be probably 2 things. One, consider João Pedro going forwards, and I think he's fine to hold at the moment. But there is some upside, or potentially, you don't have the money or the transfers for it this week. But potentially looking to go into Gabriel Jesus or somebody else for João Pedro, just because he's not doing as well in that sort of striker role that as he was in the sort of number 10 behind Welbeck. And actually with Welbeck out of the team, I found that actually Brighton have not had quite the same attacking dynamics and link-up play that they had with him in the team. So yeah, I would definitely, I think João Pedro to sort of a Gabriel Jesus, maybe a Chris Wood or a Wissa in future could be something interesting. I think for this game week, personally, I don't think you need to make a transfer, and you could easily roll into next week. Gives you 2 free transfers and the ability to sort of then move out of someone and into somebody else, and that sort of gives you the ability to upgrade. For example, with João Pedro. But if you are looking to make a transfer this week, I personally think you're fine. You can roll. I would say Thomas Partey to Jacob Murphy at Newcastle. I think Jacob Murphy is at 5 mil and it's completely slept on at the moment. And if I show you statistically, show on the screen here, Jacob Murphy, 0.55 expected goals and assists, 0.2 expected goals, 3 goals, 5 assists, almost basically like very similar to Bruno Fernandes. Not too dissimilar from Ismail Assar. So yeah, I think that's probably where I'd go. Finners took Saka out. If I was to make a transfer, but for you, Tony, I reckon your team's fine, mate. It looks nice. I'd roll the transfer and have a look next week. I reckon there'll be things that you might want to do next week that are more urgent. I think just play Rodgers this week. Play Rodgers for Partey, roll it. Finners, mate. 122, 1300. Almost can remember your team ID nowadays. 122, 1300. Hopefully that helps, Tony, mate. If that was helpful, give us a sub. Give the deadline stream a like. Help us get out to more people. Finners. Took out Saka for Maddison. What do you think? And who do you bench? Yeah, Saka for Maddison is what I was saying I was going to do a week, and I panicked. I actually think I made a mistake this week with my team. I should have gone Saka to either Maddison or Foden, but I tried to get Jesus in like before he rose in price, and then I was 0.1 million away, so I just had to make another transfer. I ended up doing Flecken to Ramsdale. Wild. I should have just done Saka down to somebody, but I couldn't make a decision of who I wanted. I didn't want to get it wrong, and I probably should have done. Sorry, mate. What did you say? You went to Maddison from Saka, so Trent, Robbo, Mazraoui, Mikolenko on the bench. Nice. Greaves, yeah, issue. McNeil, issue. Did you say 1.3 in the bank? Oh, you've got tons in the bank now because you went Saka down to Maddison, so that was probably like 2.5 mil, let's say. I think it's a bit more than that. So let's say you got 3.8 in the bank. Ooh, you got nice options you can go. McNeil or Cunha are the two that you're going to look at. Let's have a think. You're going to play Maddison. You're likely going to play all of these guys. Forest v Tottenham score goals. Isak you play, Palmer you play, Salah you play, Maddison, Forest. If you're bringing him in, you play him. Ahmad v Wolves you play. Mazraoui v Wolves. You know, in defence, you could play Mikolenko. I don't think that's City. Yeah, you probably don't want to play Mikolenko. Trent, Robbo, yeah, Mazraoui or Mikolenko. Yeah, I can't see City not scoring. I know they've been poor, but I just can't see them not scoring. At my own peril, there's honestly like no tactical thought process behind that, except Everton are going to set a low block up. I just can't. Guardiola can't work a way of getting around Everton. Oh man, it's tough. I can never get past it. I think it's my own problem. I need to think that City are actually a poor team at the moment. I play Mazraoui. I don't think you need to make any transfers. I think your team's fine. I think you can roll. Yeah, I think you're fine. Do you have one free transfer? Oh, no free transfers. Yeah, you just roll, play Mazraoui. I can't bring myself to tell you to play Nikolenko against City. Just can't do it. Mazraoui, Man United v Wolves. I don't really like that either, I'll be honest. Sells or Flecken. No, he uses Sells or Flecken. Brentford got Brighton. Brighton have been poor going forwards, man, but Brentford is so poor defensively. Sells. Go Sells. My thoughts behind that being, I don't know what formation Amj is going to play. If he plays what he played against Liverpool, then I think they might have a chance in scoring. But if he plays Brennan Johnson out on that right wing, Tottenham sometimes have difficulty breaking down solid defensive units, which I think Nottingham Forest are. And Forest did sort of switch it up this week. And I think I have some sort of discussion points on them somewhere. Do I? Yeah. Where they went to sort of a 3-4-3 this week, and they sort of played those high wing backs. So I think if they do play that against Spurs, Spurs are more likely to get a score against them. But if they go back to sort of the more solid setup that they play with 4 at the back, I can see Forest really just keeping them at bay, and Spurs not being able to break them down. I think that's what I'd go for. I think Sells is also going to get some save points. I think he's definitely, from a tactical standpoint, more likely to be the better option. But yeah, I just think the formations are not really bedded down for Forest at the moment. They obviously have that sort of 4-2-3-1 that they often play, which I think is their most defensively solid formation. If they play that against Spurs, then I think they've got a good chance of keeping them out. And then the opposite for Spurs is like they've just found a formation that works, playing like 4-2-3-1 with Kulusevski on the right, Maddison in the 10, which I've been banging on about for months. If they stick with that, even after this 6-3 loss to Liverpool, I think they have a chance of scoring regardless of what Forest's defensive setup play, because I think they have that attacking threat. But I think either way, Brentford are probably likely to concede against Brighton. I know Brighton have not been fantastic going forwards, but Brentford have been awful at the back. Like, I mean, if you look at from a goals conceded perspective, I don't know if I have the table. I think they're like bottom 5 goals conceded this year. Flexo, Luis Diaz to Saka for -4. No, don't bring Saka in, mate, he's injured. I'm assuming you meant Saka to Luis Diaz for a -4. Can you roll? I mean, no. For me, like, do you have someone to play off the bench? I'd honestly say no. Like, Liverpool could easily just not start Diaz. They could just play Gakpo and Nunes or Jota. I mean, I don't think Jota's going to play. Yeah, Brentford are bottom 5 for goals conceded for 32. So I'd go Sells, mate. Be my option. Yeah, Flexo, mate. I wouldn't take a -4 for that. Have you got Rodgers on the bench or something that you can play? I'd play Rodgers. If you've got somebody on the bench, just wait till next week. I've just left Saka in my team, to be honest. I personally was my own fault. I should have subbed him out, but anyway, I won't harp on about myself. Nobody cares about my team. It's all about everyone. It's all about helping you guys out. Or do me at the end. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I just don't think like Luis Diaz is going to score. Well, who's on your bench? Like, do you have somebody on your bench? If you like, start Johnson or Robinson. Is that Brennan Johnson? Definitely start Robinson. Oh, yeah, definitely start Robinson. Definitely start Robinson. Brennan Johnson. I'm so anti Brennan Johnson. I would sell Brennan Johnson. Can I see a team? I'd love to see a team. If I can see your team, I can help. What's your team ID? I'm sure I can help better. Because sometimes it's hard to know, like without seeing the rest of the team, what I would do in that situation. Like generally, -4s is not the way to go, unless you think like there's obviously a big upside, Liverpool v Leicester, and it's a risky move, but you've basically got to say like to get something out of that. Diaz has got to score. Diaz has basically got to score. Even if you just got 2 points from whoever was on your bench, you're having -4. So Diaz has effectively got to score more than 6 points to be worth transferring in that week. Or you've got to think long term he's a good option. For me, long term, like as we've spoken about Liverpool players previously, like a bit of a minix risk. You can't tell when they're going to play, how many minutes they're going to play. With Jota coming back to fitness as well, that just means there's less minutes, even if he's playing as a 9. So it's a risk. You've got to be a manager that's wanting to take those sort of risks for a high upside. I would say there's probably a high upside in this Leicester fixture. I wouldn't be willing to take that sort of risk personally. I just think, depending on who you have on your bench, you can just play them. But yeah, if you put your team ID in the chat, I can pull your team up and make a more educated decision. Where are we? We talked about Spurs and Liverpool. Newcastle 4-0 v. Oh, I got it the wrong way around. This is Newcastle. This is Leicester. Good stuff. Newcastle 4-0 versus Newcastle 4, Leicester 0 to confirm. Link up play, obviously really nice. Isak with a hat trick in that game. Gordon and Hall just looking really nice down that right hand side. I think their link up play together is really improving. Hall almost had an assist, whipped in a really nice ball. Guimaraes headed it onto the post. Free header in the box. And one guy that I definitely would tell you guys to consider is Jacob Murphy. I think Jacob Murphy's just a real sort of sleeper for me. He's keeping Harvey Barnes out of the team, where if you look at it from a statistical perspective, tongue twister for me and my poor pronunciation. If you look at it from a statistical perspective, you can see Harvey Barnes here at 0.61, just under James Maddison. And you got Jacob Murphy down here at 0.55. He's keeping Harvey Barnes out of the team, and like Harvey Barnes is not playing poorly at all. So I guess like you obviously have to consider the fact that he's not going to play 90 minutes in every game. Neil's team review comments 462.35. Already done Odegaard for Saka and Isak for Cunha. Getting you up, mate. Can't have you getting too far in front of me though, mate. I've been catching you lately. No, I'm joking. Keep going. You're doing great. Here we go. Rare in goal. So you're double Arsenal defence, of which I think they're sort of getting. There are now like sort of 5 fixtures for Arsenal which are not lovely, if I'm honest. Like Brentford after Ipswich, obviously. Brentford, Brighton, Tottenham, Villa, Wolves, and then Man City, and then they have nice fixtures again after that. So I mean, like you're probably not going to make any sort of goalkeeper transfers. Your move was Odegaard for Saka. Nice. I like that you always go for something different. Isak for Cunha. Yeah, you're always like looking for that sort of different upside to other people. So I do like that. That's why you were asking about Anderson starting earlier as well. Coley for Leicester. Yeah. Okay. So Odegaard for Saka, Isak for Cunha. What does that leave you in the bank now? Odegaard like 8.3, 2 mil. Isak for Cunha was probably like, that's probably about 2 mil as well. So probably probably still about 0.8 in the bank. I don't know, just a guess. 0.8 in the bank. Wow, good guess. Is that enough to go João Pedro up to Jesus? I think you just missed it. João Pedro, 5.8. Yeah, Jesus is up at. What's Gabby up at now? 6.8, I think. 6.8, yeah. Mohamed Gouda, I want to activate wildcard. Do me a perfect team. I can do a wildcard draft for you, mate. Just give us a sec. Let me just go through this with Niels. Semenyo Semenyo over Rodgers. I think we spoke about that. Salah, Odegaard, Palmer, JP, Jackson, and Isak. Yeah, so front line is nice. The guy I'd start to think about is João Pedro. I think the thing is, right, is if you can hold him through these next 3 weeks, their fixtures are actually really nice from 21. They got Ipswich United, Everton, Forest, Chelsea, Southampton, Bournemouth, Fulham, which is pretty good. Isak Price Rice has killed you, yeah. Killed a few people. And Brighton and Brentford is like obviously a nice attacking fixture for JP, so I probably wouldn't move him this week. Future, I think you're all right. Like my honest opinion is, I'd probably say like Raya in goal. Is like Arsenal, they're gonna have to be defensively solid, but just over the next sort of 5-6 game weeks is the only thing. But I mean, it doesn't make sense to make a goalie change, especially from Raya. So for me, like I'd be looking at just rolling if I were you. The next few weeks, just rolling. I think your team's nicely set up. And just look to, I think with your rank, you got to have a consideration of what you're going to do with your chips. I think you've used your triple captain. So think about when you want to use that assistant manager chip. If you're going to use it around 24, 25, which some people are considering in that double game week, then you need to save up your transfers, because I'd recommend when you're doing that assistant manager, swapping managers to make sure you get the best possible week for that manager. I personally don't think that's the best time to play it, and I think if you look at my chip strategy video that I've got on my channel where I talk through the best time to use all the chips, I think it's a lot later in the season. So personally, I think for you, Niels, you can just look to just attack upsides, like use your transfers to attack upsides, and if you don't need to, just roll for the time being, like roll and pick up your free transfers. I think your team's nice. I think you can keep Semenyo for, again, like the next 3 games, Palace, Fulham, Everton. That's not too bad. If you're going to move from him, you've got the options that we sort of have. I can show here. I'd say Ismail Assar. I'd say Jacob Murphy. Really nice options at that sort of lower price point. And you got like an Enzo and an Ahmad. I think those are your sort of options around that price point. But yeah, for me, I would say you can easily roll over the next few weeks, save up the transfers, and you've got to choose whether you want to attack that upside or save them for whether like something happens over the next few weeks and then you want to make a few moves. Yeah, take a look at that chip strategy video. I think it's like I line up all the chips and the best times to play with them. I actually think it's pretty good and makes a lot of sense. Mohamed Gouda, I want to activate the wildcard. Give me a perfect team, bro. Yeah, alright. I will actually look at that, and I will then do you after Flexo. I will get to your team ID. Let's do a wildcard draft. How good? All right. Let's start with it. So, like the way that I always look at wildcard drafts, right? And I think I might have even done a video on this, or potentially just included it in one of my videos. The first thing is I always look at who my key captaincy options are going to be over the next few weeks. Make sure that they're in my team. Realistically, like Mo Salah is going to be my captain almost every week. Probably every week for the next 8 game weeks or so. If he keeps performing the way he does. Look, I'm going to look for different options every week, and I'm going to look at the tactical analysis behind the games. But if he keeps scoring 2 goals every week, then like, there's just no point going for anybody else. Cole Palmer obviously has the potential to be a captaincy in that game against Ipswich, in that game against Wolves. So definitely would consider putting him in the team. Sorry, I realised I did not have the correct screen up. I'll start with these 2 in the team. Then Alexander Isak in incredible form from Newcastle with nice fixtures. Definitely gonna chuck him in the team. And then I think something important to look at is I did this sort of attacking fixture difficulty. So the second thing after looking at potential captaincy options, right, is to look at the biggest upside players and what they can get for you, and then look to get them in your team. So the biggest upsides really that you're looking at is from attacking perspectives. So if I look at this sort of attacking fixture difficulty rankings and look at who the teams are that have good fixtures, you can see here Arsenal have some nice fixtures over the next, I would say, 4 game weeks to Tottenham, but probably quite nice still. Villa have nice fixtures up to 28 from 19. Chelsea have some good fixtures. Palace have some good fixtures. Fulham, Liverpool, Man City, and then maybe a little bit later Man United. So the big teams there to look at are Liverpool, Man City, and probably Chelsea and Arsenal, and who the players are that we can look to get in from that perspective. We've obviously got Salah and Palmer. I think from a Liverpool perspective, it's difficult to pick the guys that have the best output, have the best minutes. Otherwise, I'd really look at Diego Jota, but I just think his minutes are going to be a struggle. I think the same for Diaz and Gakpo and Nunes. But I do think in their defence they do have some possibilities, but we'll go on to defence after. I think at the time being, Arsenal, especially this week against Ipswich, Gabby Jesus makes a really good price point pick. With Saka out injured, I'm expecting him to be in the side. Like, he's just scored a hat-trick and 2 goals and 1 assist in the last game, so I'd probably look to bring him in. The next guy I'd look for is Chelsea with their nice fixture run. I would look to have Nicholas Jackson in there. I think he's a really important forward to have in the team. Then if we're looking at the midfield, again, if I'm just looking back at that fixture difficulty, obviously we talked about Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. And so the other guy, and I think this is one that we need to look at as a possibility, if Man City start to run and roll forwards, is Phil Foden. For me, he is a bit of a minutes risk under Pep, and also Man City haven't really clicked into gear. So I'm just putting him in here at the moment as a bit of a placeholder, and we'll come back to him later if we don't have the funds for that, because I think there's some other nice options. I would say then you're probably going to need better price points in the midfield. Palace with some nice fixtures will go Ismail Assar. So if we look again, you can see Palace's really nice fixture run here going forwards. And how good we can put Ismail Assar. There you go, mate. Probably I'm just on like 8-second delay, so I think that's what delay latency is, about 8 seconds. So yeah, and then I think the other guy at a nice price point that I just would keep in the team is Morgan Rogers. I think Villa have some nice fixtures. I think Morgan Rogers and Unai Emery has spoken about how he's such a crucial part of that team and how he's looking to make him more and more important. There isn't anybody else I'd rather go for in that midfield, to be honest. I really do like Morgan Rogers. The only way I'd probably go out of him is if I had if I needed to go down to even cheaper players. But for me, Enzo and Ahmad, not who I'm looking at. Duran is nice as well, but obviously you just don't know what's going to happen with him and Watkins in that rotation. I think it's more like Isak and Jackson are pretty locked, and I think it's more likely for me that Jesus is going to start more games than Duran. Because I think Watkins will be in the team as well. I do think though Duran might have just nabbed that starting spot off him for the future, but minutes wise, I don't really want to have a double up on Villa. I'd rather have a bit of the Arsenal attack. Without Saka, I think Jesus is the next best option, potentially Odegaard. So I think the other way you could look to do that is maybe go Odegaard midfield and Duran up top here. That could be sort of your different take on this, if you think that that's a nicer way into the Arsenal attack and Villa. That does leave you with a double up on Villa though, so you have to think about that each game week. At the back, so this is what we're looking like at the moment. Foden, Rodgers, Palmer, Salah, Sarr, Jesus, Isak, Jackson. So like I was saying, these two could probably be an Odegaard and a Duran. Would leave you with a double up on Villa. That's something to consider. I want to see your current team. How long are you going to be online, mate? I'm going to go all the way to the deadline, Niels. So till 10 PM. What is that, New Zealand time? Midnight. If you have super urgent stuff, let me know and I can pop back to it. Flexo, we will get to you as well, mate. Just bear with me while I go through this wildcard team. So yeah, defensive fixture difficulty. This is what we're sort of looking at. I think the teams to look at here, again Liverpool, again Man City, then from 19, Nottingham Forest start to pick up. They're obviously decent defensively as well. And Fulham from sort of 19, 20 also have a nice little run there. Chelsea keep going for a little bit, but don't have great defensive options maybe, except for Cucurella. And then Brighton maybe from 21 is someone you want to consider. For me, I think just the length of this Fulham run stands out to me, and what I'd be looking at is probably, ideally, an Anthony Robinson. And obviously if we don't have the money for that, we need to think about somebody else. And in Liverpool, I think Trent obviously stands out as a possible option. But for me at the moment, I think Gomez is incredible value for money at 4.9 in that Liverpool defence. Kanate out with a knee injury. He hasn't trained yet, and I think knee injuries generally take a little bit of time to get back from. It's not going to be simple and easy recurrence. So I think Gomez is a really great route into this Liverpool defence from a defensive standpoint. Doesn't really have a lot of attacking output, but if you want sort of someone cheap that's got clean sheet potential, that's what he's in there for. The other thing I would consider is obviously that sort of double game week that we're getting with like a sort of Liverpool Everton sort of side of stuff. And if we do look at Everton's fixtures, they're not fantastic going forwards, but they do have some decent fixtures scattered in there, and they have been looking a little bit nicer from a defensive perspective. Plus Mykolenko provides us a nice little price point to get into that team at 4.3 million with a cheap defender. So we'll put him in there for now. This is sort of the way that I work through my team here. Connor P, Stark Robertson or Harwood Bellis. Interesting. I will come to you. Just give me a second to get through one by one. I think it actually needs a bit of discussion. Not straightforward. And then let's say Man City, maybe Gvardiol. Nice fixtures. They have a really nice fixture run. And I think Gabriel for Arsenal, just because you want to have a nice Arsenal defender in there. It could be a Timber. In goal, Fabianski, just because he's the only 4.1 mil playing goalie, and we got 3.5 mil left, which is not ideal, but I would go for whoever I think is the best keeper. All good news. I'll catch you a bit later when you're back, mate. So yeah, I guess finally from that keeper perspective, Bit of a tough one. I'd say a bit of a tough one. Maybe sells Nottingham Forest. Maybe sells. And then if you need to save money here, mate, I think it's Foden that's got to go. Down to 7.9. Someone like James Maddison. Sorry, I realised I had the wrong screen up when I was doing those last transfers. So that's where we ended up. Like, that's what I would ideally look at a perfect team, mate. And then, given that I don't have the money, I'd probably just plumb this down to a Maddison. Obviously, other changes to decrease price. Jesus down to a Duran, Gvardiol down to like a Lewis Hall. Gabriel down to a Timber if you need to save money across your team. That's what I'd go for. Sells or Henderson, yeah, I mean, much for much. You could go for either. I just like the Nottingham Forest defence. And they've shown it more often than Crystal Palace have shown being good defence, Nick. That's why I went with that. Alright, who is next in those questions? Flexo, I will put your team up, mate, and we will do your team review. 638205. Let's get you on. What were you after? You wanted Luis Diaz to Saka for a -4, or Johnson or Robinson bench? Yeah. So have you made a transfer this week already, Flexo? Thanks, bro. That was very good. No worries, Mohammed. If you enjoyed it, give us a sub to the channel, like the video. That'd be really helpful. Appreciate, as always, you guys in the comments. Yeah, what would I look to do for your team, mate? I think Hall, Robinson, Gomez is really nice at the back. I mean, obviously two of them which is in my wildcard team. I imagine Lewis will start for Man City this week. I'd have him in the starting lineup as well. I guess your question here is really like, do you want to go 3-4-3 or do you want to go 4-4-2? Use your free transfer. Who is your free transfer? Who have you changed in this side? Just so I know. I'd start probably Lewis, Gomez for sure. Then between Robinson and Hall, Newcastle or Villa, they're both nice. I think Robinson in Hall. Probably start both of them. I'd have Johnson on the bench. And then Palmer, Salah, Rodgers, Larson to Jesus, great. And Jesus, Isaac, João Pedro is lovely. And don't... Yeah, I think then your option is like, go Saka for a -4. You could go Saka for a -4. You could go Saka for a -4, but I just don't think it's worth it. I really don't think it's worth it. I think you make the transfer next week. I think bench Johnson. Bench Johnson, I don't think he starts. Bench Johnson, play Rodgers, bench Faze, bench Saka, wait for next week to move Saka to someone. And what I would say is actually make your transfer early. Like as soon as the games finish that first night, if there's gonna think about who your transfer is gonna be for Saka. Maybe like a Maddison, maybe Diaz if that's where you want to go. I just think a bit of a minute's risk more so than Maddison. Ismail Assar, Jacob Murphy, all of those sort of options that Phil Foden, all of those options that we talked about. And I think make your transfer early. Don't wait to the deadline. Make sure you get in there before like the price decreases and the price rises. I'm sure people will move in price there. So yeah, that's what I do. Flexo, roll it this week and then make a really early transfer next week after the first set of games. If we just quickly look, who are the first? Man City. Yeah. So sorry, mine are obviously weird times being Aussie. yeah, so basically after all these games, you've got to make a choice on who you're moving Saka to, without having seen probably Arsenal, Ipswich, Brighton, Brentford. Have a look at the price rises and see if anyone's likely to go up that you're looking at. Probably would say Maddison, maybe Odegaard, Foden's the one. If you want to go Foden, you probably have to make that decision straight after the games, mate. That would be my call for you. Who is next? I think it was Connor. Connor, mate. Start Robinson or Harwood Bellis. Some current views are interesting. Start Robinson or Harwood Bellis. I would. Yeah, so I think the thing to consider here. And if we go back to these sort of observations, is I actually think like Southampton had a really a much better defensive style than they have had in previous times. So I think when you're looking at that, you've got to think Robinson's obviously got that attacking potential for Fulham up that left hand side, and I also think the fact that you could potentially see like a Malo Gusto inverting into the 10 means they might have a little bit of weakness down that right every now and again. So he could cause some damage for Fulham. I think Fulham will play those sort of diagonal balls over Chelsea's press. I think it will be important that sort of more that it's being received by like an Iwobi down that left than a Robinson. And I do think that Southampton against West Ham is actually like quite a nice game for them to set up a low block and just cause West Ham problems. So for me, I would actually start Harwood Bellis. I know that's a tough one to call, but now that the new manager is going to allow Southampton to play long out of the back. Southampton have caused teams. I'll get to you, Jose, mate. I'll put your team up just after this. I've just got to answer one question in between. And I'll put the team up on the screen. So yeah, I think Southampton, from that perspective, because they're no longer passing all that ball out from the back all the time, losing it, giving it away, they've actually had that sort of 5 at the back low block, and they've caused Liverpool and Man City a lot of problems breaking them down from that perspective. So actually, I definitely think that they can cause West Ham some problems defensively and make it really difficult to break them down. And I think Ramsdale's going to look to kick the ball a little bit longer as he did last week. Obviously kept that clean sheet against Fulham. They could definitely do that again against West Ham. West Ham have not been great going forwards. So yeah, I would start Harwood Bellis. That's my reasoning behind it. Hopefully that was helpful. Connor, sorry for taking a while to get around to that question. Nick, Sells or Henderson? I think that was in relation to wildcard, right? I went Sells just because I like Nottingham Forest a little bit better. Defensively, they're a bit more proven. Would you do a -4 to get Gabriel Jesus? All right. Would I do a -4 to get Jesus? See, now that one's interesting because I think he's got a lot of upside, but because he's a striker, he's basically got to score 2 goals to be worth doing the -4. Because he's got to get, for a -4 to be worth it, you've got to get more than 6 points. Because if you haven't done that -4, you'd have a guy in there, realistically, if they're an attacking player, they're probably need 2 points minimum, right? So Jesus has got to score. Jesus has got to score. He's got to score twice. He's basically got to score twice or get a goal and assist. There is an upside to attack there. And if you're looking to bring him in anyway for the future of your team, there is definitely a consideration that you should take that -4 if you're going to want to make another transfer next week. If there are other transfers that you can see your team need to make, I would actually consider bringing him in for the -4, to be honest. Even if he gets the 1 goal against Ipswich, there is a likelihood of him just him being good, and then you being able to have a transfer for next week, even if it's net zero. It's a net zero, right? But it's who you're bringing them in for, and if they are going to score points as well, you obviously got to consider that and add on to that. What do you think? Who you think you bring them in for? Because for example, if you bring them in for like João Pedro v Brentford is a very nice game. Brentford have been very poor defensively, 5th most conceded goals this year. Hi Sam, I'm into you, mate. Sorry for the delay. I've got Isak and Foden instead of Cunha and Saka for a hit for -4. Isak and Foden. You have done that, or you're asking whether you should do that? Because it's a tough one to say. I would probably not do it for a -4. I wouldn't take a -4 for that because already done the hit. Okay. All right. So you just want me to look at your team and have a think about where you want to go. I was thinking more Cunha out for Jesus since I thought he was going to get banned. Yeah, I don't. Cunha's not going to be banned for this week, Nick. I think. Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I think Cunha could score against Man United. You're a Man United fan. No, Cunha's definitely not going to score against Man United. Definitely do the -4. Yeah, you got to back your boys. Back your boys, Man United. Hi Sam. Yeah, let's have a look at your team. So Flecken in goal. Obviously, in the future, consider moving on when you do. When you do play sort of wildcard to probably not worth it mid-season. Van Dijk, nice. Gabriel, nice. Robinson, lovely. Luka Dean, interesting one we can talk about. Palmer, Salah, and this is now, who did you say? Foden, nice. Enzo, and then Jackson, JP, and Isak. Yeah, I mean, really lovely team. Faye's on the bench, yeah, obviously annoying. I've got him on my bench as well. Fabianski as well. Yeah, so that's nice. Like, probably going to be playing. I'd say probably play Fabianski this week against Southampton. Start Fabianski over Flecken. Then you got Van Dijk. You're going to start against Leicester. Gabriel, you're going to start against Ipswich. And Robinson, Digne. I mean, Digne's I know you got rotated with Maatson every now and again, but he does start frequently for Villa. I know he got rotated in the week that we wanted him to start. Just quickly, just pop up Digne on here. Yeah, look at those returns. I mean, shambles for him, eh? He was sort of looking nice at the beginning of the season as well. I was thinking I wanted to get him in that team. He's on corners as well and set pieces, so but Villa haven't been very strong from them. Yeah, I'd start Robinson. Start Robinson in your team over Digne. That's probably where I'd look to move in the future. I think like you got a really nice team. You probably don't need to worry about too many things. Faze is like just fodder. He'll probably get you a point off the bench for Leicester. He's just come out of that starting rotation now with Rude. It's a bit annoying. He was obviously picking up 2 points every week before, but now he's just sort of coming off the bench for 1 with Vestergaard and he starts for Leicester. The other guy with Vestergaard. Yeah, so I would say like where you want to be looking is maybe Luka Dean, moving him for maybe like an Ola Aina, or so your transfers this week was Saka down to Foden, so -1, and Cunha up to Isak, so probably +2. So you probably have about 0.8 in the bank. So yeah, Luka Dean, what is he at the moment? 4.5, 4.6, 4.7. You can probably go up to 5.5. There's no one really in between that price point that's much better than anybody around the 4.5. Yeah, I'd look at like an Ola Aina at Nottingham Forest. Forest's fixtures get quite nice. That would be nice to have in as a rotation with Robinson. If we look at this here, defensive fixture difficulties. Everton Wolves is quite nice. Sort of West Ham and Liverpool, these two, Bournemouth and Man United, Newcastle, Brighton. Fulham, Forest. Yeah, I think the rotations, and then Ipswich v Tottenham, Man United, Villa. I think the rotations okay for those guys. The only other person you could maybe consider is like a Tarek Lamptey or a Estepinian at Brighton. You could go into one of those guys. Or you can double up on Liverpool and go Joe Gomez and Van Dijk. I think those are what I'd consider, Hosam, going forwards, mate. Hopefully that's helpful for you. If you found it helpful, give us a sub, give the video a like, help the channel out. Nick, I'm thinking about more Cunha out for Jesus, since I think he's going to get burned. Would you start, so we did that one, would you start Sanchez or Fabianski this week? Fabianski against Southampton. Southampton just look terrible going forwards. Yeah, I don't think they're. I think I'd definitely start Fabianski. As much as I think Southampton can keep a clean sheet against West Ham, I equally think West Ham it could be a 0-0. I mean, in that game, I expect it to be less than 2 goals. That's sort of my thoughts on that game, to be honest. So I'd probably go with I would definitely go with Fabianski over Sanchez. I think like Fulham could cause Chelsea some problems if they break through their press. That's what I was sort of talking about, is that that Chelsea front line, very attacking, high press, and Fulham with the ability to sort of hit those balls cross field to their wingers, to sort of an Iwobi, or to like just break a tackle with a dribble, and they've been one of the best teams in the Premier League for like progressive carries and quick counter-attacking. If you saw when Chelsea played Leicester and Leicester managed to break through their press, Leicester are actually getting at that Chelsea defence quite a lot. So if Fulham do manage to break through, I can definitely see them scoring in that game. We'll keep going, and yeah, feel free guys to just chuck in team IDs in the chat. I know some of the big streamers are on now, but obviously I can reply to those questions, and I have more tactical insights than them, so please come and ask me the questions, and I will do my best to answer everything. West Ham, Brighton, sort of go back to sort of this tactical analysis on last week, and then we'll go through the game week 18 predictions in a second for what I think the results are going to be. Brighton obviously set up in a 4-3-3, Ruta right wing, Mitoma left wing, JP centre forward. That switched up in the second half to sort of push João Pedro into what is his preferred position, I think, in the number 9 behind the striker with Ruta up top. But he just doesn't seem to quite find the same attacking patterns under Hertzler when Welbeck was in the team. I can't put my finger on what it is, to be honest. I want to watch Brighton a little bit more closely this week, see if I can gain a little bit more insight for you guys. But I just find their sort of attacking patterns and link up have just broken down a little bit with Welbeck out of the team. We talked about West Ham lacking the cutting edge. Everything runs through Bowen. Bowen better in that right wing role. But obviously Fulkrug can't last the 90 minutes at the moment for West Ham. So yeah, I think those are probably the takeaways. For me, I might just have a little look. No, I won't do that yet. It's too early for early team news. Yeah, going on to Everton-Chelsea, I mean, I thought that game, Everton were really aided by the conditions in that game, to be honest. I felt like definitely, like, Everton obviously play a super direct style of football, right? They hit those sort of cross-field long balls, diagonal to their wingers, to the Calvert-Lewin, to Beto, to the strikers, etc. The conditions being super blustery and breezy made that really difficult for the Chelsea defence to sort of judge the ball and where it was landing. That sort of allowed Everton to then get the guys up the field and sort of press a little bit higher into that Chelsea line. That just meant that what we expected was sort of Chelsea consistently coming at Everton and coming at Everton. It just sort of ran down a little bit of the clock. It made it a little bit harder for them to come straight back at them. It allowed Everton to get out a little bit more. Sometimes they win some of those duels because the ball blew where they weren't expecting. Chelsea defenders struggled a little bit. Everton were able to win some of those duels. So that sort of, I think, made it a little bit more difficult for Chelsea. I did still expect them to break Everton down. I know they've been quite defensively resolute under Sean Dyche of late. But yeah, I thought it was definitely those sort of blustery conditions helped them out quite a lot. Leicester v Wolves, Cunha again scored. Yeah, this was sort of for me to just pick up on any news on the ban. As I was talking about, similar to when Bentancur got banned for Tottenham, Cunha essentially, Bentancur, it took like a few weeks after the ban went through for him to actually be banned, after sort of they appealed against the ban, for him to be banned. We don't know if Wolves did appeal against the ban. I assume they did. It was obviously only last Thursday or something that happened. And then, yeah, ultimately, I think Cunha's going to be available again for this week, possibly even for next early week games as well, before that ban comes through, and they give him a number of games. So if you do have Cunha in your team, try and roll your transfers, is my advice, wherever you can, so you can make that transfer out from him to another player if you need to. If you can go to Isak already, I would try to go to him, or a Jackson. I would go to them both. Otherwise, a downgrade to Gabriel Jesus looks like a really nice option for this week against Ipswich. Definitely would be something I'd consider. United Bournemouth, I have obviously the wrong text on here and I didn't fix it before the stream, which was very silly of me. But yeah, sort of the talking points were actually if United had scored, that game could have been a really different game. They had their chances. Ahmad had a chance. Bruno Fernandes had a chance. A few others had chances, and I'm just going to take that off the screen because that's going to be really annoying. But yeah, like United did have their chances to score, and didn't manage to take them. Sorry, just popping that up. Yeah, didn't manage to take them. Timothy, Martinelli, Rodgers, Ahmad, pick the best two. For this week, Martinelli and Ahmad. Longer term, if that's like just who to bench, I'd bench Rodgers. If that's who you'd be picking, I'd be picking Rodgers out of the three of them. Villa have a really nice fixture run coming up. If I show attacking on here. Sorry. Yeah, this is sort of Villa's attacking fixture difficulty, like my own version of it, which is better than it's a bit more thought through and clearer than the FDR for EPL. So their fixture difficulty run from an attacking perspective, it's actually really nice from 19 through to 28. So I definitely have Rodgers. Rodgers is probably going to play for me most weeks. I need to think, like my benching decisions going forwards are going to be much more difficult. Colwell, Robinson, Hall, pick one. Man, no messing. Do you have your team ID? Do you want to chuck it in? Maybe I can give a bit easier options. Stefan, welcome mate. I'll get to you straight after. Colwell, Robinson, Hall, pick one. Wait, pick one. Wow, you must have a strong team. If you bench Rodgers, I'd go with Hall. I think the Chelsea-Fulham game, both teams will score. I was talking earlier on the stream about how I felt Chelsea with that sort of like press where they have Jackson leading the press, Palmer and the two wingers, and then whoever inverts from fullback into that attacking midfield role for Chelsea in a sort of like 1-4 press. Fulham are going to hit, the centre backs are going to hit diagonals into their midfielders, and you're going to see like them try and like break that Chelsea press, similar to how Leicester and also Fulham are like one of the best teams in the league at progressive carries, and how they sort of able to maybe break a challenge and bring the ball up through the field. And I think like you'll see them maybe cause Chelsea some problems at the fullback areas when their fullbacks invert when Chelsea are attacking. The same way I think like although Fulham are a nice defence, Chelsea are one of the best attacking teams in the league, so you kind of expect them to score in most games. And they had a lot of chances against Everton. Nicholas Jackson didn't finish, so I think there'll be goals in that. Both teams will score in that game. So yeah, I think if you're not picking Rodgers, you pick him Adam Martinelli. Mahul's a good option. Timothy, hopefully that's helpful, mate. If you found it helpful, give the vid a like. Give us a sub for Christmas. Stefan, hey mate from Australia. Good to see a fellow Aussie. Welcome. I have Trent, Lewis, Robinson, Ainuri and Greaves in the back line, and also Saka with 2 free transfers. What are your recommendations? Mate, if you can post your team ID in the chat, I'll pull your team up on screen, and it'll be easier to give the recommendations if I can see the full team. And I can see, I'll be able to see like how much money in the bank and stuff if you haven't made any transfers yet this week. If you don't have to find a team ID, it's just if you click on points. If you're on your computer, if you click on points on the FPL website, and then in the top of the web page, like address, it will have. If you go to like this screen, the point screen, FPL, and then in your like web page ID, it will have like a 7-digit number or 6-digit number, and that's your team ID. Just chuck that in the chat, and I'll pull your team up on the screen like this, and then we can go through a little bit easier. If you're on phone or something, I'd probably just need like team name and manager name. It's a bit harder though. Just team IDs. If you can get that, it's a lot easier. In the meantime, we'll carry on talking through sort of our tactical observations. Yeah, in that Man United game, sorry, the commentary, obviously I screwed up, so I just took it out because I put last week's commentary in there. I'll get my laptop with you. Alright, Stefan, no worries. I'm not going anywhere, mate. We'll be here for another hour. Yeah, so I thought it was like not too one-sided of the game. I think Man United had their chances going forwards. Obviously, like Ahmad, Bruno, all missed chances. I thought Xerxes was quite nice in his link-up play. As I've been saying, I feel like he plays that sort of Firmino role for United, but they really need those other two in the front three to be important players. Like they need to be attacking dynamic, and they almost do miss a Garnacho when he's not in there. I know his finishing's been poor, but I think the dynamism that Garnacho brings is something different. Brentford Nottingham Forest was a really interesting game. Two managers who are not afraid to change their tactics up and do different things. Brentford went back to like a 3-4-3 from their sort of their usual format, their 3-5-2 that they've been employing more recently, and I thought that was kind of interesting because Mbeumo went back out onto that right wing, but actually like he was quite involved in the play. Like he played, they played a lot more through him than they had done previously. I feel like he's felt a little bit isolated out on that right wing before, but he actually created a lot of chances in that game against Forest, and Brentford were, if I'm honest, were pretty unlucky to come away with nothing in that game. I really thought that they played well. Nottingham Forest, like as they have been doing all season, really showed their sort of counter-attacking quality. They, along with Fulham, have been two of the teams that are really good at fast, progressive carries up the field. fast counter-attacks using the pace of Elanga, of Hudson-Odoi, etc. is in their team, Morgan Gibbs-White's, and then Nuno actually adapted his formation as well for this Brentford game, which was awesome because I think Thomas Frank's one of those guys who tinkers a lot with the formation, and he definitely wouldn't have seen this coming from Forest, and would have had to adjust at half time and just wasn't able to get it right. I thought it was really interesting. They played that 3-4-3 formation with hey Ivan, good to see you, mate. They played that 3-4-3 formation, allowed Nico Williams and Ola Aina on the points tab on my laptop. Where do I find the code? My team name is Sudoku. The code is in the website, like in the web page address. You'll see if you look in the web page address at the top. Yeah, I'm reviewing teams, Ivan. If you put your team ID in, I will do a review for you after I do Stefan. Eight oh eight 3934. Yeah, alright, let me pop that in. That's the sort of code that you're looking for, Stefan, at the top, mate. It will be in the like www.webpageid section. In the meantime then, Ivan, let's just do you, mate. 808 3934. One sec. Anything specific you are after, or we'll just talk through this team? So let's have a look. Raya in goal, Mazraoui, Alexander Arnold, most operated FPL content creator out there. Keep it up, man. Thanks, Mikel. Appreciate it, mate. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Yeah, Ivan Raya, Mazraoui, Alexander Arnold, Colwell, Bednarek. Wow, that's an interesting one. What is he? 4.5. You have one safe transfer, Ivan, looks like. 0.4 mil in the bank. Palmer, Son, Saka, Salah. Wow, nice. Okay. So you probably have two free transfers this week, I'm guessing, unless you've already made a change. So I guess my suggestion here, obviously, like the Saka is the glaring like move that you're going to be looking to make. I think defensively you're right. Like Mazraoui v Wolves, Trent v Leicester. I would probably play Bednarek over Colwell. I think Southampton v West Ham. Southampton probably more likely to keep a clean sheet than Chelsea in that game. Put Colwell on the bench. Then you've got your midfield is where you probably need to look at making movements. Obviously, you also need to consider that there is that Cunha ban upcoming. So I think you got a couple of thoughts which I would think about. If you got two free transfers this week, I'd look at downgrading Saka to. My options are that I'd probably say are good are Ismail Assar, Jacob Murphy, given that you don't have Alexander Isak, James Maddison, or Phil Foden. And with that money, I would use it to potentially upgrade Cunha or João Pedro. How do I get Team ID to send, man? Guys, a few people have been struggling with this, so I'm going to do what I don't normally do, but I will actually show you. I don't like to show the website, but I'll show it on screen quickly. If you look here in your web page address, if you go to points in FPL and you come up here and you click on, and this is your team ID right here, 4462253. That's your team ID. So Stefan, for you, if that's what you're looking for still, if you go to your web page address, it's up here. After you click on points, you can see your team ID there. Sorry, Ivan, I'll come back to you right now. It's just we had a few questions on that, and I didn't want to annoy people. Yeah, so Saka, Wissa, and Cunha for Sar, Jackson, Isak for -4. No, I definitely wouldn't take a -4. I don't think you need to. I think Wissa's nice. I think he's almost fixture proof for Brighton. I know he had a bad game week last week, but his stats are amazing. His footballing IQ is fantastic. He just gets into such fantastic positions for Brentford. He's going to be consistently starting as their striker as well. He's definitely someone I'd keep in my team. If not, I'd be like he's someone who's probably maybe like my fifth striker to buy. No worries, Stefan. I think Saka out for Sar is nice, and then yeah, if you're looking Cunha out to an Isak, that's what I'd look to do. And then you can move to a Jackson next week. I don't think take a -4. I don't think we'll take a -4 for it. There's no need to take that -4. I think the fixtures are still fine. Brighton concede goals. Brentford, obviously, the like 5th most goals conceded this season. So Wissa and João Pedro are both fine. If I was to move next week, I'd probably move João Pedro to Jackson rather than Wissa. Obviously, we'll see how he does this week. I don't know. I like Wissa in that Brentford team, and they obviously score a lot of goals as well. And Brighton are just not quite clicking at the moment with Welbeck out. João Pedro's just not finding those little link-up plays. So yeah, for me, if you're going to go Saka to Sar, just one transfer. No worries, Ivan, mate. If that was helpful, give us a sub, give the video a like, help us grow this channel. Stefan, my man, here you are. We're getting to you finally. 5199361. Did you have any questions that you asked before? You said Trent Lewis, Robertson, Aguero agrees about also have Saka with 2 free transfers. What are my recommendations? Okay, so just asking for the recs. So 2 free transfers. Start Lewis against Everton for Man City. I think he'll start this week. They obviously Stones is not available or unlikely to be available. They got a few injuries. I think he's probably going to start. I think he'll probably start at left back and Walker at right back with Guardiola and Akanji at centre back. I think that's probably what will happen. Maybe he'll invert into defensive midfield again. Start Trent, start Lewis. Oh, he's got United. I think Aït-Nouri might not start for Wolves. One of the Gomez's, I can never remember his first name for Wolves, was playing fullback last week. I was playing wing back last week with Matt Doherty. He had a really good game. He scored the goal. I think it was Rodrigo Gomez. It's that one. It was Rodrigo and João. I can never remember which way around they are. Yeah, so I probably wouldn't start Aït-Nouri or Greaves. He'd definitely be someone I'd be looking to move. He's also on 4 yellow cards, but he's only got the yellow cards are only valid for 18 and 19. So after that, they sort of get scrapped, and you'll need to get 10 before game week 32. Saka, Palmer, Enzo, Salah. Obviously, Saka look to move. Maybe Isak, Nicholas Jackson, João Pedro. Great front line. Don't need to do anything with that. Verbruggen, Sells is nice. I'd probably play Sells this week against Tottenham. Not that I don't think Tottenham are definitely not going to score against Nottingham Forest, but I think if Tottenham start the wrong lineup, they won't score. If they start Brennan Johnson on the right wing, I think Nottingham Forest can keep a clean sheet against them. I think they lack a lot of cutting edge when they don't have the dual threat of Kulusevski and Son on either wing with Maddison in the 10. And that's been their best attacking formation this season. So I don't know if they rotate because of like midweek, but if they don't start that lineup, I think Sells has got a good chance of keeping a clean sheet. Whereas I think Verbruggen probably concedes to Brentford, regardless. So start Sells. I think start Robinson, Lewis, Trent. Look to move Saka. Triple up of Chelsea's. Yeah. Interesting. I'd probably start Rodgers over Enzo. I like Rodgers. I think Emery's been talking about how he's been a real crucial part of that team. And also, it's just like spreading the risk across your team. You think that and 6-2, I'll get onto your team after. I think that like 3 Chelsea players, like last week, for example, you obviously had that problem of Chelsea didn't score Palmer, Jackson and Enzo. You get 3 blanks in your team. So you kind of want to spread that risk across your team, which is why I never really advise triple ups in the attack, unless it's like for a double game week or like for one fixture or something like that in a free hit. I would think about maybe fixing that going forwards. But yeah, 97k overall, mate. That's actually well nice. Let me do your like rank checks against these guys on the side. You can see. Let's do top 100k. You're only 4 points off 80k, 11 points off 60k, 20 points off top 40k, mate. Should I get Bruno and Gabriel for this week? Gabriel, I don't think you need to bring in this week. I think you're alright. Like, your defence is alright. I think you start Trent, Lewis and Robinson. I think Trent v Leicester is nice. I think Lewis v Everton is nice. I think if City are going to keep a clean sheet, this is the week that they're going to keep it. Robinson, like, attacking potential is okay. I do think, yeah, you probably need to think about Aït-Nouri in the future. So yeah, I think Saka moving to your options there again, like I've talked about. I think Bruno's okay. I would say better options are maybe a Foden if you trust City, or just for that sort of like high upside. James Maddison at Spurs in that number 10 role. If we're looking at stats per se, Maddison in that 10 role. Like, look at him. He's 8 goals, 4 assists. Started 14 of 17 games for Tottenham. 7.6, 7.7 mil roughly. 0.61. He's up there in like the upper echelon of players. I think he's nice. Otherwise, Ismail Assar, he's up there as well. Palace have got a really nice fixture run coming up. Like Bournemouth, Chelsea, Leicester, and Jacob Murphy as well with Newcastle. But you do have Isak, so I think the double up's not really worth doing. So I'd look at Maddison or Sarr. I think Bruno's fine, or even like Martinelli if you want to go Arsenal. I think Bruno's fine. I personally would look at Maddison or Sarr. I just like the upside of Maddison more, but I think Bruno's also fine. Diaz is just a minutes risk for me, like with Jota back as well. I don't think Jota will start personally. I actually think Diaz will start against Leicester. But you just can't tell sometimes with slot, especially like midweek started. I know he played really well, scored last week against Spurs, but you just can't tell. I think these games coming thick and fast, there's going to be a lot of rotation. If we look at your bench, don't know whether you quite have the rotation that you want. Probably don't want to be playing Enzo most weeks. No, I think like if you move Saka, you can move to Gabriel. Then you just play Gabriel over Robinson, or a Timber. If you want to save money, Timber. But yeah, I'd say you don't have to. But you move Aït-Nouri to a Timber or Gabriel. You move a Saka to whoever you want, Maddison or Bruno. I think if you do that, then you don't play Robinson, you bench Robinson, you play the Arsenal defender against Ipswich. More likely clean sheet, to be honest. I mean, that's probably an upside for this week. I would do it. If that's what you want long term, I would do that. I think it's nice. I'd probably go Timber and save money. But I think Gabriel's also good. I think they're equally as good. Gabriel more attacking threat off the corners. Timber somewhat. If you want to look at the stats on it, actually I think Timber doesn't quite get into my stats. But they're not too different. I think Gabriel's like 0.18, Timber's maybe like 0.15 or something like that. Sixu, let's get to you, mate. And then Toki. Yes, Toki, if you put your team ID in the chat, mate, I will pull your team up on screen. And if you don't know how to get your team ID, go to the point screen in the FPL on the FPL website on your laptop, and then just go to the website address, the http www etc. and there will be like a 7-digit number after entry. Yeah, I don't feel confident with Enzo in the long term. I actually think you should move from Enzo, Stefan, if I'm honest, because I think a triple up on Chelsea is not ideal. And I'd probably go to, if you don't go to Bruno, maybe an Ahmad. Otherwise, maybe a Jacob Murphy. But again, then you're sort of doubling up. Did you have Rodgers? If you didn't have Rodgers, definitely go Rodgers. But I thought you had Rodgers in there. If you didn't have Rodgers, definitely go to Rodgers. I think Villa have a really nice attacking lineup. Otherwise, I'd probably go to Ahmad and then not Bruno and go to like a Maddison, just to sort of spread the team. Sorry, so Sixku. Sorry, I can't pronounce that very well. I'm not very good at pronouncing most things. You have Rodgers. Yeah, I'd probably go Ahmad and then go Maddison over Bruno. Get some nicer rotation rather than having two from all the teams. So yeah, then maybe go Saka to Maddison and Emery to Gabriel or Timber this week, and then for the future moving Enzo to Ahmad. So did you have any questions on what you wanted to do this week? No, I'll just have a look. Verbruggen Ramsdale, nice. Someone else has Ramsdale. Start Ramsdale against West Ham. More likely to keep a clean sheet, I think, Southampton versus Brighton. Reason being, obviously Southampton have changed up their dynamics a little bit. They're playing a little bit longer. Their back five and their defensive low block has actually been really good against some of the big teams. West Ham have not been great going forwards. Thanks, Toki. I'll get to your team next, mate. They're West Ham have not been great going forwards. Haven't been very cutting edge. So, we'll see. I've actually got Bowen and Ramsdale on my team, so I'm sort of a bit of hedge bets. If someone scores West Ham, at least we can hope it's Bowen. You can support me too, Saku. Or Riley. Gabriel, Colwell, Van Dijk. Thanks, Stefan. Appreciate it, mate. Catch you in the week for some videos and next week for the live stream. Merry Christmas. Gabriel, Virgil, Colwell, Kirkes, Harwood, Bellis. Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll probably start Kirkes, Van Dijk, Gabriel this week. Bournemouth have Palace. Brought in Isak and Diaz. Starting Ramsdale, Gabriel, Kirkes, VVD. Nice. Diaz, Odegaard, Salah, Palmer, Semenyo, Cunha, Isak, Verbruggen. Wissa, I'm assuming. That was a bit Wissa. And you brought in Isak and Diaz for Cunha and Saka, I'm assuming. I'm assuming that Verbruggen is Wissa, mate, in that lineup. Oh, João Pedro. Oh, so you've still got Cunha. Oh yeah, Cunha, Isak. Oh, sorry, Cunha, Isak. There's just an extra one. Yeah, Verbruggen in there. Okay, so sorry. So you brought in for Wissa. Okay, so you brought in for Wissa, Isak, and Diaz for Saka. Cool. Yeah, I would probably agree with all of that. I think you've made all the right decisions, mate. Diaz or Saka, Wissa for Pedro. Diaz for Saka, Wissa for Isak. Yeah, cool. Yeah, man, I think you made all the right decisions this week. Recommend a bench boost this week. Verbruggen, Harwood, Bellis, João Pedro, Colwell. What have you've just used one wildcard so far. No, so do you know what, Matt? I think you're in a real good position. You haven't really used any of your chips so far. I'd say probably don't use the bench boost this week, although your team is nice for a bench boost. And I'll talk about why. I don't have it up on my screen. I might actually be able to. Pull something up quickly. But I did do like a video on like chip strategy and when you should use all your chips, and I talked about the sort of best way to use bench boost. And actually, like, I think there are two good ways of using it. This is probably going to be hard for me to get on screen, actually. Let me try. But yeah, basically what I think is that you can use your wildcard just before a double game week. And if you wildcard into a bench boost, and let me get my face like out of the screen, and I'll try and put like an old thing I have. Yeah, I can't get it on the screen, sorry. Sorry. But yeah, I think, look, I'll just explain it. I think that's probably the best way to do it. I think if you wildcard in game week 35 into a bench boost in game week 36, game week 36 is when we're expecting to have a big double game week. And the reason behind that is because of like the doubles and the blanks and the FA Cup semi-final. The FA Cup semi-final week is basically Saturday the 26th of April, which is the same week that obviously fixtures are played. So obviously if 4 Premier League teams make that semi-final, then there's a potential of like 8 games being blanking in game week 34. Then if you wildcard in your, and that I would say is a good week to use another chip. But take a look at my chip strategy video. I explain some more detail, but I'll try and go through it quickly for you now. And so then I think like game week 35 is a nice time to use that second wildcard, and you set up your team for a game week 36 bench boost where you've got double game week players all over your team. So you basically have 15 players all that play twice. So that gets even more out of your bench. So you're getting like 8 games from your bench as well. And then you've just got to get through 2 weeks after that with whatever team you've picked. So I would say try and save it up. Try and use that wildcard 2 into the bench boost. And then, yeah, that's the way to go. Orange Apple, will come to you, mate. And Johnny Football. Just got to get through a couple of other guys first. Toki, let's do you, mate. Hopefully that's helpful, 6 mate. Good luck this week. Got to keep cracking on with everybody. No, and I like your team. I think you started the right people, by the way. 6 It was good. It was the right start. I'd have made the same decisions. Toki, mate, first season FPL, great team. You're not a first timer, mate. You're not a first timer. You're doing pretty good as well. Top 1 mil at the moment, almost top 1 mil at the moment. Look, you're probably not that far off ranks. Like if we look over here on the left, you're only 12 points off 800k, 23 points off 600k, 40 points off 400k. Like you can make those up, just sensible decisions over the next few game weeks. Don't need to do anything crazy. I think your team looks nice. Raya in goal, Timber, Van Dijk. And again, I'd probably start Kirkes over Robinson this week. I think the Bournemouth fixture is a little bit nicer. Salah, Palmer, Rodgers. I think Smith Rowe's probably unlikely to be fit again this week. I have him as a sort of unlikely to play this game week. Was based off team news. João Pedro, Cunha, Isak, nice as well. I honestly, I think your team's set up really nicely. I think your decision's just got to be who you move Saka out for. Suku, legend, mate. Merry Christmas. Most underrated FPL creator. A few people said that today. Having a good Christmas for me. Thanks, mate. Have a great Christmas to you too. Yeah, I think your big decision here, Toki, is who to move Saka out to. Obviously, we've been through that on this call a few times. Brought in Foden for Saka, bench Robinson, Smith Rowe, and Bednarik. Perfect, mate. Exactly what I would do. I think that is the correct decision. Good move. I think it's a very upside move going for Foden. I think obviously going forwards, the only things I'd think about for your team is Cunha. Probably Cunha and João Pedro. João Pedro just got to wait and see. I think the way that Brighton have set up tactically without Welbeck, he's not at his best if he's not in that number 9. They obviously tried to switch it up second half of last game and put Ruta up top and João Pedro in behind. Let's see what their tactical lineup is this week. I think hold João Pedro for now. Obviously, when we're looking at fixture difficulties, Brighton do like pick up again from maybe 21. They don't have the worst, but yeah, I mean he's someone that you could potentially look to move on. Obviously Cunha as well. Yeah, Duran, a bit of a minutes risk for me. That's the only thing. But yeah, I agree. I think he's probably nicked the starting lineup over Watkins for now. But I think just wait a week, like see if he starts again now. If Emery starts to use him more frequently, I think there'll be a bit of rotation with the sort of midweek games that Villa have to play. They're also in Champions League. It's a little bit harder. Gabriel Jesus is probably the option that I'd be looking at for Cunha. I think he's a really nice one for Arsenal. I'd even consider moving for him this week against Ipswich if you do have one transfer remaining, but I think you don't, given that you made those moves already. But yeah, nice one, mate. I think that's what I'd look at going forwards. Cunha and João Pedro, keep an eye on them. Yeah, potentially Duran, potentially Jesus. Otherwise, Chris Wood is probably next on the lineup for me. Forest have nice fixtures over the next sort of 6-7, and then maybe Wissa. Those would be my top 4. Who was next? I think it was Johnny Football TV. Mate, you're not the guy that was like the NFL player, Johnny Football, is that? Or like if you like based off that? Got a tough decision this week. Start Lewis, Enzo, or Rodgers. Any advice? Start Lewis and Rodgers. How many have you got, Johnny? How many do you need to bench? Start Lewis against Everton. He's going to play, I think. I think Stones is going to be out for City. I think Lewis will start at left back, probably, for City, with Walker at right back, Guardiola and Akanji. Johnny, also, mate, if you have your team ID, if you chuck it in the chat, thanks Toke90, mate. Give us a sub if that was helpful, and like the video. Yeah, Johnny, if you could chuck your team ID in the chat, it'd be a lot easier, mate. But from those 3, I would start Lewis and Rodgers, and I'd bench Enzo. Or if it was just one of the 3, I'd probably play Lewis against Everton. I think that's a good option for a clean sheet. That's a tough one. It'd be between Lewis and Rodgers. It'd be tough, but let me know if I need to pick one out of the 2 of them, or if it's pick 2, bench 1. Put your team ID in if you want me to do a full look at your team. Orange Apple, again, mate, if you want to put your team ID in, I can do you a full team, but worth a -4 to bring in TAA this week. Already have Van Dijk, and would have to bench either Enzo, Lewis, or Johnson to start TAA. Bench Johnson, 100%. Brennan Johnson, probably not even going to start. And no, not worth a -4 to bring in Trent. So, can you bench Johnson and not bring in Trent? Like, that would be my ideal option. No, it's not worth a -4, man. Like I've been talking multiple times on this stream about how I don't think Trent is actually a great option. I think with Saka getting injured, it makes him like slightly better if you have funds in your team. Like, my personal opinion for Trent is like you can just go with another Liverpool defender. His attacking output, tactically, he's playing a totally different position under Slot than he was under Klopp. It was just last week against Tottenham where they changed his sort of like tactical positioning, and he played in like that Klopp role that was a lot higher forwards, and that was to counter Spurs and how they pushed on their fullbacks and pushed on their wingers, and Liverpool basically went, come on then, let's go, we can beat you attack at attack, and they did. It was 6-3. So that was why Trent was playing in that high position. That was also why he picked up that assist last week. I don't expect that to be the same case against Leicester. I think he'll play back in the more defensive role. They're not going to want to be caught out on the counter. They'll back themselves to break Leicester down and score normally without having to push him on. But yeah, that's what I'd expect this week. Let's wait and see. I do think with Saka being out, it does make the sort of money to go into Trent a little bit easier. Otherwise, I'd generally say I think Trent, the money can be better spent elsewhere. But if you do have those funds, I think he's a fine option, but definitely not for a -4 this week. I'd rather play like whoever you've got. He's basically got to get an attacking return to be worth doing it, or you want him in your team long term. If you want him in your team long term, I think Leicester could score. I don't think it's worth it. I think like if you want Trent, bring him in next week. You don't need to bring him in this week. Just bring him in next week. It's not worth the -4, in my opinion. Guys, we have half an hour to the deadline. We've gone through our tactical observations. We probably have not done statistical analysis yet, and we also haven't done my watch list. I think we'll do the watch list first, because statistical analysis, you know, we talk tactically, like that's good enough. Let's talk about the watch list, and I'll try and do this video each week for you guys to keep that sort of running. These are the guys that I'm sort of, I'm not saying transfer in, but I'm saying keep an eye on going forwards. And I think some of them would definitely be people that I would look to bring in. Orange Apple, hopefully that was helpful, mate. If you want more detail, or if you want to give me your team ID, I can definitely give you more detailed answer to your question. But yeah, let me know. Same for you, Johnny Football. Also, I'd love it if you were the NFL player. That'd be great. That guy was a legend. I watched the documentary on him. Anyway, to the football. Let's stop talking. The football, soccer, football, not soccer. Sorry, any proper people. Yeah, so I think these are guys that you got to have a look at for the next few weeks. Not necessarily transfer in. I'd say if you are looking at transfers in, there are some of them that I would look at and some of them that I wouldn't. I'd say the ones to just be watchful of: Diego Jota. Let's see how frequently he starts over these games. I don't expect him to start many games. I think he'll be rotated frequently over this period. Orange Apple, yeah, mate. I did answer your question a minute ago, but if you missed, two things. One, post your team ID in the chat, and I can. It's a bit easier for me because I can't quite work out what your full team is. But what I did say is I don't think it's worth taking a -4 for Trent this week. I would probably just bring him in next week, not for a hit. I would bench Brennan Johnson if I could. I don't think he'll start for Spurs. I don't think he should start for Spurs. I think Kulusevski should start right wing, Son left wing, Maddison 10. That's their best lineup. I've been saying Brennan Johnson should be a sell for a while. He gets returns that are very fortunate. He plays on the he's good when when oppositions are attacking Spurs and Spurs have scored and they're trying to counter them. That's when he's useful and that's when he'll come on. Or arriving in the back post. Lee Vu, hey mate. Munoz/Lewis or JP? Current team is Raya, Gabriel, BBD, Lewis. Lee Vu, do you have your full team, mate? It's a lot easier to make that decision. I would probably go Lewis and JP out of those three and bench Munoz. But if you have your team ID, post in the chat, I can pull it on screen, etc. Or if you just type your full team in Orange Apple, that's also fine. Current team is Orange Apple with Castagna as bench. Raya, Gabriel, VVD, Lewis. Yep, cool. I'd start all of them as well. Salah, Sarr, Palmer, Johnson, Enzo. Jalpen, Isaac. What is that? 3-5-2. Salah, Sarr, Palmer, Johnson. I don't like Johnson. Who's your other striker? You got another striker? Or not? With Castagna as bench, anyone else, or just two bench fodders outside of Castagna? Yeah, I don't like starting Johnson, to be honest, mate. If he comes on, Levu. Yeah, I'll pop you on screen in a minute, Levu. Yeah, don't love starting Johnson, but I wouldn't go to Castagna either. I think Chelsea will score. And maybe you take the risk that Spurs rotate after that 6-3 drubbing by Liverpool. Maybe you just go for Johnson. I don't love it. Yeah, I'll pull you up on screen, Lulu, in a second, mate. Don't love it. I wouldn't take a -4 though, honestly. Unless I'll be almost tempted to say play Castagna. Almost tempted to say play Castagna. Now, if you're not worried between like 1 or 2 points, if Johnson gets 1 and Castagna gets 2, and you want the bigger upside, just play Johnson and bench Castagna. I don't think Trent's worth the -4. Look, to be honest, if you want Trent long term, he's probably worth the -4 this week in that team, because I think over the next couple of weeks, Liverpool are probably likely to keep some sort of clean sheet. But who are you transferring out for him? Some bench fodder. If I sell Greaves, $7.1 million. Yeah, okay, I see your point. Yeah, look, if you want Trent, I don't like a -4. I think you can make the transfer next week, unless you're really thinking that you're going to want to keep making transfers every week. I think like if you want to make a different transfer next week, then I don't think you need Trent in that team. I think your team's fine. I don't think you need Trent. I think you just don't take the -4. You roll the transfer. You play Johnson. You hope that he starts. And if he doesn't, yeah, Castagna will probably get 1 more point than him, but bigger upside. That would be my advice, mate. I think you don't even need to move Trent in next week. You can think about someone else. I think your team's fine without him. Levu 5201597. Hopefully that's helpful, Orange Apple, mate. That's just my opinion. I mean, if you want to go -4 and you really want Trent in your team long term, you can go. Yeah, so I've sort of screwed my own team with SAKA as well, mate. So don't worry about it. Yeah, he could start. I think Spurs are a better team when he doesn't start, and I think Amjad's realised that. But because it's a midweek game and he didn't start last game, he could start. I just think they're better without it. All right, Levu, what did you want? You wanted. Is this your team? This doesn't look right. Oh, Munoz, Isaac in for Guardiola and Cunha. Okay, that's what you did. So you made those transfers already? Is this your team? FPL Dylan. Are you FPL Dylan? Mate, I watch your channel. Hi, thanks for joining. Cool, so Munoz in. Oh, you're not, it's a troll. Okay, cool. Got me. I'm very gullible. Munoz needs to in for Guardiola and Cunha. So Guardiola out really for Munoz. Okay. Cool. Let's just for my own. Yeah, Palace with Bournemouth this week. So Saliba and Timber, you're obviously starting. Munoz and Robinson. Oh, you can just start Saliba, Timber, Lewis. Ahmad v Bournemouth, Enzo v Fulham, Salah, and then you brought in Isaac for Cunha. You didn't change Saka, right? Wild. Just left him on the bench. And Palmer in, so you can play 3-4-3. Triple Chelsea. I wouldn't want to do that. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so front three fine. You just play all of them. You can bench JP for Munoz, Lewis for the back. No, I'd probably bench Enzo, mate. Like the triple up on Chelsea, you kind of want to spread your risk across your team. Like for example, last week, right? Also, jokes that you bench Palmer, that was top banter. Like for example, like Chelsea blanked, and then you get 3 blanks in your team. So just for me, like I just don't like having a triple up in attack. It's something that I would look at for your team going forwards to potentially think about maybe moving that structure. Oh, you bench boosted last week, okay. That was otherwise like super funny. City killed you, yeah, I know. City were a nightmare. I had Guardiola and Lewis as well, mate. So, wildcarding next week is worth taking -4 for 1 week. We'll get to you, Mark, in just a second, mate. Just let me finish this one. So yeah, I think what I'd do is I'd bench Enzo. I'd go. Robinson, Saliba. Sorry, who did you sub Guardiola out for? I keep forgetting. It's hard to look at this team like this. Munoz, yeah, okay. Saliba, Timber, Lewis, Munoz. Yeah, play the back 4. Bench Enzo. You can have Ahmad, Salah, Palmer, and then play front 3. That's what I'd do. Yeah. Just leave Robinson, Saka, and Enzo on the bench. That's what I'd probably go for, mate. Mark, wildcarding next week, is it worth taking a -4 for a 1 week punt? No, is the answer. Oh, Mark, alright, let me look at your 1 week punt. Canate, Saka, and JP for TAA, Jota, and Jesus. Just don't do Canate to TAA. Oh, yeah, Canate. Oh, yeah, I see him. Ooh. And it's Saka down to Jota where you're getting the money, isn't it, Mark? Yeah, no worries, Lee. Hopefully that's helpful, mate. If that was helpful, give us a sub and like the video. Help us grow the channel, please. Have a good luck this week. Merry Christmas. Mark, yeah, Saka. You're obviously making the money to make those transfers through Saka to Jota, right? But I don't think Jota. I don't know whether Jota is going to start this week. I'm not sure whether he's fully fit yet for Liverpool. I almost think like that's such a tough one to punt on. And if you're going to wildcard 19, let's have a look. Who would I punt on this week in the midfield for 1 game? Can you go, like, I'll ask you, this is more of a question for you. If you can go, if you have your team ID, chuck it in the chat, it'll be easier to check the money situation. But I'd probably go like Saka to Foden, JP to Jesus. Or if you like JP, because like Brian playing Brentford, you can see a lot of goals. And I know João Pedro doesn't work great in the 9 role, he's a bit better in 10, so I don't know if without Welbeck in that team, he's been struggling, like tactically the link-up play's not been as good. Can you see my team for game week 18? Yeah, you can, Nico. While I'm talking about this, I'll put it on screen. Yeah, so I think you could go like Saka to a Foden. Like if I look at the, sorry, let me put my team on screen so you can see as well. Is it just? Oh, yeah, actually, no, hang on, mate. Can we see your team? I know why you're asking that because you're playing me in head-to-head this week, so there is no chance. Get off my live stream. Get off. You're the only person I'm ever going to tell to get off my live stream. Get off of my live stream. Stop cheating. I forgot about that. I was playing you head to head this week. You scumbag. Sorry, leave it, Mark, mate. Yeah, look, I'd think about this. Like, think about. Let me put my fixture difficulty planner up on the screen. Like 1 week punch. Maybe go Man City because like Liverpool attackers are hard to pick who's going to start. Like any of those 4 could start out of Nunes, Jota, Diaz, and Gakpo, and also like any of them could score the goals. Man City, like probably more likely that. Oh, shit, my phone died. Probably more likely that Foden's going to start for them. You could take that sort of punt. The other punt you could take. Maybe you go to like an Arsenal midfield, maybe you go to Odegaard and then you move to, instead of moving JP to Jesus, you got that Arsenal coverage against Ipswich and then you go the Canate to Trent. So I think that's, I don't like the -4, especially when you're wildcarding next week. Like -4s for me is if you want that structure in your team going forwards. And like, I just think Jota's too much of a risk for a -4. For me, Jota's too much of a risk for a -4. Same like moving JP to Jesus is also risky. Nick, do you know what? I'm going to show you my team like 5 minutes before the deadline. Scumbag. Absolutely. I'm so close to putting my team on the screen. It's fine. It's fine. I'm still going to beat you, whatever your team is. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Mark. What do you think, mate? I think like if you're happy with that, that's probably where I'd go. I think those are my two options for you. I wouldn't take the -4. I'd go Saka to Foden and Kanate to TAA, or I'd do maybe to Odegaard, or JP to Jesus and Saka to Foden. JP to Jesus, Saka to Foden, Saka to Odegaard, and Kanate to TAA. Have a think of those ones. Try not to take the -4. I don't think you need to do it. You're wasting 4 points. I'm not a big believer in -4s, unless it's to structure your team going forwards. And given you're playing a wildcard in 19, don't think it's worth it. I also totally forgot the wildcard team that I just built like earlier today on this stream, which is frustrating. So I could have showed that. I already made my transfer since yesterday, so you can't change anything. Alright then, mate, I'll put my team up on screen for you. How about I put my team up on screen, but I don't show you who I'm picking? You can see what transfers I made this week. Do you know what? Let's put it like this. You can see what team I'm picking, it's alright. You're not going to win anyway. Yeah, so going hard on City defence. Bukayo Saka's starting for me. He's going to come back from injury. I'm joking if anyone's watching this stream and like thinking that Bukayo Saka's coming back for injury. I'm just joking. He is actually in my starting team just because you can never trust Arteta, mate. You never know. What if he just rocks up and starts playing? Just put him in the starting lineup. You never know. He's going to come and score a hat-trick. I made some mistakes this week in my transfers. I should have moved Saka to Maddison or Foden, and I regret it. And I'm going to watch Foden score 2 against Everton or Maddison score 2 this week, and it's going to hurt me inside. Saka to Fernandes, yeah, I just left him. I just figured Rodgers is good enough. And I brought Gabby in, and I brought Ramsdale in because I was 1.1 million away from João Pedro to Gabby Jesus, and I panicked because I knew Jesus was going up in price, and I just brought Ramsdale in for Flecken as he was 4.4. Also, I think Southampton might get a bit better. It's a bit of a gamble. I thought I'd go a little bit different with the goalkeeper. I don't think they make that much difference. I think Southampton have a really nice low block of 5, and when they play long out of the back, they're not going to have as many mistakes that they're making. So yeah, I hope Everton don't score. A bit of a gamble on City, but man, if they're not going to keep a clean sheet at Everton, these guys are all getting sold from my team. So this is like the final stand for me. This is like Gandalf. If Everton pass, then it's all over. Guys, 10 minutes till the deadline. Do I think Lewis starts? Yeah, I think he starts because I think Stones is out. I don't think he's unlikely to play. I think Lewis probably starts left back. Guardiola starts centre back with Akanji, and Walker starts at right back. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, he'll come off the bench, get 1 point, and I'll cry. But 10 minutes to the deadline. I'm now going to look for late team news about Lewis starting for Man City, and I will let you guys know if anything's out there. Except for Nick, if you can please get off my stream, thanks. Yeah, guys, if you have any late questions for your team, please chuck it in the chat. Let me know any thoughts. Yeah, anything you want to know, please put it in the chat. Any team selection issues, get it in there. Anything? No, not seeing anything so far. Just sort of having a look for any potential Man City news. Nope. Yeah, crazy that Saka dropped 2.2. That was crazy. This week, I think he was the most sold ever. Should I transfer out Saka when wildcard next week and cucumber? Nice name. Mate, do you need to transfer out Saka? Like, if you're wildcarding, like, what's your team for this week? Post your team ID, I can check it out. You don't have to transfer out Saka. If you want to transfer, if you think there's an upside to it, I think if you're wildcarding and you have a free transfer, you're fine to do that. I'm fine to make the transfer out. Go for a punt, 1 week punt on like Phil Foden or someone. No team news on Man City yet. Nothing. Nothing on him. I can play Strand Larson instead. Yeah, I'd probably sub out. I'd probably sub out Saka. I'd probably sub him for Foden, Maddison, or Ismail Assar. For me, I'd probably go Foden, biggest upside, or a Liverpool attacker, just a complete gamble. And that is like a lottery ticket you're buying if you go for a Liverpool. So you're obviously either going for Diaz or Jota, but it's pretty much like buying a lottery ticket. Same as Foden, to be honest. Like, he's a bit of a lottery ticket, but. No, I'm not seeing anything. Not seeing any last-minute team news. I'm not seeing any last-minute team news. Guys, 5 minutes to the deadline, so please lock in your teams. I will double-check my team. My vice captain is on. Gabby Sadiq just got back. Any team link? No team news. Nils, mate. I'm just looking out for some at the moment. Nothing on the City game. I've been looking for sort of defensive lineups, whether Foden's starting, but no news so far. My expectation. To be honest, my expectation is just a yes. My expectation at the back is that it's going to be Lewis left back, Walker right back, Guardiola and Stones. That's not Stones. Guardiola and Akanji centre backs. I couldn't tell you in the midfield, honestly. I don't know. I don't know if De Bruyne is playing. De Bruyne is not playing. I'm still desperately searching for some last-minute news. Some rogue people gone with Kevin De Bruyne this week. few Gabby Jesus captaincies. Four minutes to deadline, guys. Get any last minute questions in right now. Check your teams. Make sure that you have got the right captain, the right vice captain. In case Salah gets hit by a car on the way to the game. Please, hopefully that doesn't happen. I've got Jesus as my voice. No team news. No team news so far. No team news so far. If anyone does hear anything, chuck in the chat. It's not like I'm going to be able to do anything about my team now, though. Anyway, to be honest, except for sub Lewis out.
Probably would go in yours over Howson because of the centre back.
Any of the other old fogies, content creators, got anything? I haven't seen anything. Yeah, nothing guys, nothing guys. 2 minutes to deadline, lock your stuff in. If anything comes in now, well, there's no Rashford and Garnacho to leak me the teams. No one has leaks yet. No one has leaks yet. No one has leaks. Guys, 1 minute to the deadline. Lock everything in. Probably will not be sticking around too far after the deadline, unless anybody has anything specific they want to see. I will probably get some food in me. It's 10 o'clock here, and then watch the late game. For me, early game for the UK, 11:30 CE. Good luck to everybody this week. Hope it goes well. Make sure your team's locked. Save team. Benching's all good. You've given my video a like. You've subscribed to my channel if you're still watching. Hope you've all had a great Christmas. Hope you all have a great Boxing Day. We are locked. 10 o'clock. That's it. You cannot make any more transfers. The game is now updating. Bang. That's it, guys. Good luck for this game week. Hope you guys have a great Christmas. Hope you get to spend some time with family and friends. Not you, Nick. I do not hope you have a good Boxing Day. I hope your team does terribly and I destroy you in the head-to-head. No, otherwise have a good Christmas, have a good Boxing Day. Get down to those sales. Yeah, enjoy watching the football. Take care, Levu. Have a good holidays. Hopefully everyone has a good rest. I will be putting out some more content. I'll be working over the next few weeks. Not the next few weeks, next few days. I'll be putting out some more content for you guys with probably like watch list for upcoming game weeks. Obviously tactical observations of the week, statistical observations. We'll also be doing the buy, sell, hold that everyone enjoyed. It was really good, guys. Thanks for viewing those videos. The longer you view the videos as well, the better it is for my channel, so I really appreciated that. yeah, stay subscribed, stay updated for that content that comes out this week. Should probably be at least two videos, maybe three before the live stream. Short turnaround time, maybe 2 or 3, yeah. Maybe try a United player FPL team. Isn't that just the United starting 11? I can't get into FPL anymore anyway. I don't think. Oh. Yeah, I can't get into FPL anymore. Sorry mate, otherwise I would have done it for you. Yeah, this is my final team. SAKA for a hat-trick. Arteta's been lied to us all, he's going to start. It's worth putting him in, right? Not going to hurt me. Yeah, I think that's it guys. No more questions. If there's no more questions, I'll finish up there. Merry Christmas. Hope you guys have a great Christmas, Boxing Day, good New Year. There'll be some more content in 2024. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Make sure you watch, like and subscribe, and yeah, have a great break. It's been great. Santa Christmas out. Santa Claus out. Nice one guys. Good luck this week.